Wang Yi crawls out of the wreckage, the only survivor of a massive accident. He is given a chance to save his friends by a system in the form of a black cat. To achieve this, he is transmigrated to a novel where he needs to become a great villain. A true villain is expected to be ruthless and sinister, a harbinger of death. After thoroughly tormenting the hero, he makes a spectacular explosive exit. Once his work is done, he leaves with a flourish and moves on to another story where he will torment another hero and accumulate points. Unfortunately, the male lead in this story has the uncanny ability to read minds. Whenever he insults the hero, a pink thought bubble adorned with adorable emojis would reveal that he thinks the hero is actually cute. The story begins in front of an enormous, luxurious mansion, its grand silhouette framed beneath a sky dotted with clouds. Inside, the sound of draining water echoes through a pastel-tiled bathroom, steam curdling from the metal grate on the floor. In the middle of it all stands a pink-haired teen, holding a shower head above another person crouched in the tub. The guy with pink hair is Wang Yi, the eldest son of the powerful Wang family. Wang Yi sneers as he calls the one beneath him a dirty mutt, harshly rejecting any idea of them being brothers. His contempt is cruel and deliberate. Without warning, Wang Yi grabs the other. Leaning in, Wang Yi scoffs. He doesn't understand why their father would bring someone so filthy, an illegitimate son, into their pristine home. The disgust in his voice is unmistakable. A close-up finally reveals the other person's face. This is Qin Xin. He's the hero of this story, and right now, his eyes are brimming with tears. Wang Yi stares down at him, mocking him for being silent. Qin Xin just trembles, too scared to speak. That only fuels Wang Yi's cruelty. He tosses out another insult, comparing him to a useless dog that can't even bark. And then, without a second thought, he pushes Qin Xin. Qin Xin hits the floor. Wang Yi steps on Qin Xin. Qin Xin squirms under the pressure, tears threatening to spill, eyes gleaming with malice. Wang Yi warns him coldly to get cleaned up and to not tell anyone. The threat hangs heavy in the air, because if he does, Wang Yi promises he'll unalive him. This place is home to the Wang family. Wang Yi strolls down a sunlit corridor, his entire demeanor flipped, yet offers a pleasant smile and casually greets the readers. In a sudden close-up, he smiles again, this time a little more knowingly. He explains that he's just a worker in the background of a certain novel. Then, with quiet ease, he opens a wooden door and steps inside. The hallway disappears behind him as he enters the room. Just past the door, Wang Yi pauses, exhaling softly. He admits to taking on the role of being the primary villain in this story. Without warning, he drops to the floor in an overly dramatic collapse. Guilt pours out of him as he declares that being unnecessarily cruel is unforgivable, and he deserves to be thrown into the deepest pits of hell for what he's done. The performance is intense, maybe too intense, but his regret sounds real. Still lying on the floor, he keeps going. Wang Yi mourns the fact that Qin Xin is so innocent and wonders how someone like him, trash, as he calls himself, could end up doing what he did. That's when a voice chimes in. A sleek black cat appears, glowing slightly with a high-tech green interface that frames its shape. It compliments Wang Yi on his acting skills, calling him host with an almost amused tone. Its glowing eyes lock on him, adding a futuristic touch to the strange partnership. The cat lands beside him with a soft thump and reassures him not to get too hung up on his feelings. It tells him to keep going with his missions, promising that as long as he stays on track, he'll be successful. This isn't just any cat. It introduces itself as Villains System 0 or SO, an AI specifically designed to help Wang Yi become the perfect villain. SO encourages Wang Yi to keep doing his best. Now sitting up, Wang Yi holds the black cat in his arms. With his eyes closed, Wang Yi finally agrees, reluctantly, but calmly. He seems resigned to the path he's chosen, while the cat stays close, pulsing with high-tech energy. Then, a futuristic screen lights up in front of him, officially welcoming Wang Yi into the world of the novel The School Hunk Fell for Me. The system refers to him as the esteemed host, again emphasizing his role as the villain in this story. SO explains that the plot revolves around the female lead, someone who will help Qin Xin through his hardships. The system explains that with her support, he'll slowly heal from the trauma caused by Wang Yi, leading to a tender campus romance between them. But before that story can bloom, the mission must continue. The black cat lays out his next task. Wang Yi looks tense, bracing himself for what's coming. And then the cat says it plainly. He must fully commit to playing the role of the cruel older brother, the one who bullies, scolds, and beats the main lead. Wang Yi's face darkens. The system is clear. His job is to make sure that Qin Xin ends up with deep psychological trauma. There's no sugarcoating it. The mission is cruel, and Wang Yi knows it. Wang Yi forces a confident grin, but tears stream down his face, his expression stuck somewhere between forced pride and quiet regret. He's doing what the system asked of him, but that doesn't mean it's easy. Just then, there's a sudden knock on the door. It catches him completely off guard. He turns to glance at the black cat, eyebrows raised. He heads over and opens the door with a skeptical look. He wonders who it could be. Standing there is Qin Xin. He's quiet, his head slightly bowed. Posture is small and unsure. Wang Yi's eyes widen in surprise when he sees who it is. Finally, Qin Xin speaks in a soft, careful voice. He says that Wang Yi left some clothes in the bathroom and held them out politely. He's just too sweet. Someone protect Qin Xin from Wang Yi. Qin Xin stands there nervously, holding out the clothes Wang Yi left behind in the bathroom. Wang Yi freezes. He stares at Qin Xin in shock, unsure how to react. After a moment, his expression shifts into suspicion. He narrows his eyes and responds with a cold, clipped tone. Qin Xin flinches slightly but stays quiet. Wang Yi scoffs and makes a dismissive sound, acting unimpressed by the whole thing. Qin Xin lowers his gaze, already bracing himself for another round. And it comes. Wang Yi sharply says he'd never accept something touched by Qin Xin's dirty hands. The insult stings, and it's clear he wants to make Qin Xin feel as unwanted as possible. Without warning, he shoves Qin Xin backward. He tells him again he doesn't want anything from him. Then, with another burst of anger, Wang Yi attacks. He mocks Qin Xin for acting pitiful, accusing him of trying to gain sympathy. But deep down, Wang Yi feels awful. In his mind, he compares himself to a beast for going this far. Still, he tells himself it's justified. He insists that anyone who ruins someone else's family deserves punishment. Qin Xin stays on the floor, stunned and silent. Wang Yi watches him quietly. He can't help but notice Qin Xin ran out here with wet hair just to return his clothes. It was sweet of him to do that, but he quickly shuts the thought down. The system chose him to be the villain. He can't afford to go soft. So with a sneer, he calls Qin Xin dirty again, saying he'll always be a wild, unwanted outcast. In his head, he bitterly imagines how lucky he'd be to have a kind, normal sibling instead. Qin Xin doesn't say a word. He just looks up at Wang Yi with wide, hurt eyes. The silence between them is heavy. Suddenly, a phone rings. Wang Yi looks away and answers it. His tone shifts as he speaks. It's his mother on the line. She tells him their father will be home for dinner tonight and reminds him to be nice to Qin Xin in front of him. Still holding the phone to his ear, Wang Yi says he'll bring Qin Xin downstairs. Qin Xin listens quietly, the clothes now draped awkwardly over his head. With a sharp bye, Wang Yi ends the call and snaps the phone shut. An awkward silence settles in as Wang Yi stands next to Qin Xin. Then a bitter thought crosses his mind. His mother is cruel, withholding proper food from Qin Xin. It strikes him as inhumane. He feels a flicker of sympathy for the kid. Snapping back to his role, Wang Yi turns to Qin Xin and scolds him for staring. He tells him to go change into something dry so they can eat dinner. But beneath the harsh tone, he just doesn't want Qin Xin to catch a cold. Qin Xin just looks at him, unsure how to respond. Annoyed, Wang Yi demands a reply. When Qin Xin still says nothing, he loses his temper and pushes him. He yells again, telling Qin Xin not to look at him. Wang Yi storms off. Behind him, Qin Xin lowers his head. He can still hear Wang Yi yelling, this time rubbing in the pain by bringing up how his own mother abandoned him for being too nervous and jumpy. Later, Qin Xin stands alone at a doorway. As the door closes on him, a strange feeling creeps over him. He starts to wonder if he's experiencing something supernatural. He covers his face with his hands, quietly wrestling with the truth. He's always had an unusual power. The scene flashes back to the time when Qin Xin joined the Wang family for the first time. At a warmly lit dining table, Qin Xin sits with Wang Yi, their father, and a woman. Their father asks Qin Xin if he's settling in well, trying to create a friendly family-like mood. Qin Xin, now in dry clothes and looking presentable, listens quietly. But inside, he knows better. No matter how sweet someone's words may sound, he can see through it. His strange ability allows him to read people's true emotions, what they really think behind polite smiles. As dinner continues, Mr. Wang sits at the table with a polite expression, but his thoughts tell a different story. Deep down, he resents having to care for Qin Xin and admits to himself that he's only doing it because of outside pressure. There's little genuine concern behind his calm demeanor. Wang Yi's mother, sitting in a graceful pose, looks warm and welcoming to anyone watching. The tension becomes too much. Qin Xin clutches his stomach, overwhelmed. Wang Yi's mother notices and quickly asks if he's feeling unwell, still keeping up her fake concerned act. Sitting silently, he rests his hand near his face, doing his best to stay composed. Trying to lighten the mood, Wang Yi casually jokes that Qin Xin isn't much of a talker, and their dad will probably have to rely on him more. But inside, he's irritated. He knows all Qin Xin's been given is porridge. And really, who could have much of an appetite for that? Still, Wang Yi puts on a confident smile. He tells their father he'll take responsibility for both Qin Xin and his mom. While speaking, he adds a piece of meat to Qin Xin's plate. On the inside, though, Wang Yi knows it doesn't matter how kind he acts, it'll never come off as genuine. Even so, he keeps up the role and encourages Qin Xin to eat, pretending to be the caring older brother. When Qin Xin hesitates, Wang Yi reaches over and lifts his face, telling him firmly to eat even if he doesn't feel like it. In his thoughts, Wang Yi imagines that if he can just get Qin Xin to eat more, he'll grow stronger and healthier. Then, in classic villain fashion, he throws in a sneer, calling Qin Xin ugly out loud. While secretly thinking he looks kind of adorable, he keeps placing more food on Qin Xin's plate, encouraging him to eat like a good boy. Qin Xin can see that in her mind. The idea of sharing the family's wealth with the new heir makes her furious. Secretly, she wishes he'd just vanish from their lives altogether. Meanwhile, Qin Xin quietly remembers how earlier he was given only a bowl of plain porridge, offered coldly, without care. Internally, he admits that the hidden disgust in this household feels suffocating. It weighs heavily on him, even if no one says it aloud. Dot sits there quietly. But then, something strange catches Qin Xin's attention. Despite the harsh words, he can see a warm pink aura around Wang Yi. It doesn't match the cruelty at all. Internally, Qin Xin admits something he probably wouldn't say out loud. There's something weirdly cute about the way Wang Yi acts. All contradictions and confusion. A tall iron gate stands guard outside the mansion, the dark silhouette framed by vibrant roses. Inside, the scene turns grim. Qin Xin is shown lying on the floor, bloodied and defeated, still carrying the bruises and pain from his older brother's abuse. A new scene introduces a little girl surrounded by flowers. Her presence is soft and calming, and something about her radiates peace. In that moment, her gentle energy cuts through the darkness surrounding Qin Xin. She must be a wonderful girl. She smiles at him, completely unfazed by how messy or broken he looks. There's no judgment, just quiet kindness. That small gesture gives Qin Xin something he hasn't felt in a while: hope. Elsewhere, a feathery cat toy swishes across the frame, catching the attention of the black cat. Wang Yi is shown lounging on a couch, clearly deep in thought. He's strategizing, trying to figure out how to use the heroine's appearance at the villa to his advantage. Wang Yi considers pushing Qin Xin even further, hurting him more, all to stay in line with the role of the villain. The cat encourages him to do just that. Its glowing eyes flash as it reminds Wang Yi that villains have to be ruthless. They always go out with a bang, and that's just part of the job. The cat promises that once Qin Xin is completely shattered, Wang Yi can finally make his dramatic exit from the story. It seems proud of this idea, hyping up the big finale as if it's something to celebrate. It flips midair, still talking, and says Qin Xin's suffering will only highlight how gentle and kind the heroine is. Wang Yi quietly absorbs that, starting to see how this cruelty is shaping the narrative around them. Moments later, he barges into Qin Xin's room, loudly calling for him. In his mind, there's a ridiculous little image of himself acting like a teacher, ready to guide Qin Xin in how to be stronger. Wang Yi says he heard from their dad that Qin Xin wanted fruit. He holds out a peach. He throws in a smirk, calling this Qin Xin's first lesson. If you're going to be a villain, you better make a dramatic entrance. He suddenly lashes out at Qin Xin for daring to ask for anything at all. Without hesitation, he attacks him. Qin Xin crashes to the floor, surrounded by scattered papers and a toppled chair. He mutters in pain, glancing up at Wang Yi. Wang Yi casually dangles the fruit in front of him. In Wang Yi's mind, a silly little thought bubble pops up, outlining lesson number 2, showing the target who's boss, towering over Qin Xin. Wang Yi props his foot up in a fake intimidating pose. Still holding the peach, Wang Yi declares that he's in a good mood and offers the fruit to Qin Xin. Qin Xin slowly reaches for it, warily. Wang Yi drops the peach on purpose, acting as if it slipped by accident. Wang Yi wastes no time mocking him, belittling him for not catching the peach and barking at him to pick it up. Watching this all play out, Wang Yi smirks to himself. Another step complete in his mental villain training plan. He knows exactly what he's doing. And now, time for lesson 3, crush the target. Without warning, he stomps on the peach, smashing it into the floor. Qin Xin ends up covered in peach pulp. His face says it all. He's humiliated. The whole thing was meant to embarrass him, and it worked. Meanwhile, Wang Yi is thrilled with himself. In his mind, he celebrates the moment. He's just recreated the exact kind of scene that'll lead into Qin Xin's encounter with the heroine. For the final villainous touch, he scrunches his face and pretends to be grossed out by the ruined fruit. He turns and pretends to be done with the whole interaction. But inside, he's practically giggling, excited about the setup for the hero and heroine's meeting. Before stepping out, he tells Qin Xin to go clean up outside by the fountain. Wang Yi had already placed a basket of fruit out there, ready and waiting for Qin Xin to eat. As he walks away, Wang Yi smirks, mentally patting himself on the back. Soon, the hero will meet the heroine, and he's even arranged a nice little picnic to kick things off. Qin Xin sits on the ground, his face still streaked with dirt and bits of peach. He wonders why Wang Yi was so insistent about sending him to the fountain. Outside, sunlight floods the large garden, casting a soft golden glow over everything. The flowers are in full bloom, filling the space with color. Right in the middle of it all, a girl in a blue dress and straw hat stands like she's part of the scenery, lit up perfectly by the sun. Qin Xin walks into view, confused. He stops as he sees the girl standing there. The girl is one Xiaoro, the heroine of this story. She's also 8 years old and has a gentle, warm smile that she offers freely to Qin Xin. With no hesitation, Xiaoro asks if his parents work for the master of the house. Qin Xin doesn't say a word. He simply walks past her. Xiaoro freezes. She stands still, clearly confused and a little thrown off by Qin Xin's coldness. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the house, Wang Yi is celebrating his own performance. The thought that the hero and heroine have finally met makes him genuinely happy, like everything's going according to plan. Wang Yi crouches behind a garden banister fountain with S.O., the black cat, hiding as he spies on the scene unfolding nearby. He watches the main characters, closely curious. From his point of view, something's off. They're not playing. That's not what he expected at all. Xiaoro is trying her best to get Qin Xin's attention, but he's completely focused on ignoring her. No matter what she says or does, he stays quiet and withdrawn. She leans in a little, peeking over his shoulder, trying to catch even a flicker of reaction from him. Meanwhile, Qin Xin picks up a peach from the basket that had been tucked away beside the fountain. He mutters to himself as he examines it, making aloud. Looking down at the fruit, he starts to feel that maybe, just maybe, Wang Yi's heart isn't as cruel as it seems. There's something unexpectedly kind about all of this, even if it's buried under everything else. Xiaoro, still curious and inching closer, hears him mumble. She gently asks what he meant by that. Then she runs after him, explaining that she just arrived at the mansion earlier that day with her mom. She asks if he lives there too. Qin Xin stops and looks back at her. When he turns to face her and gives a small nod, Xiaoro lights up in excitement. She starts to invite him to play, but before she can even finish her sentence, Qin Xin turns away again. Without another word, he runs off. Behind him, Xiaoro tries one more time, calling out sweetly to invite him to play, but he's already gone. He's planning to go see his older brother. Back in the garden, Xiaoro is left standing there alone. She doesn't understand what just happened or why she was ignored so suddenly. Not far away, Wang Yi's brain seems to short-circuit from confusion. Frustrated, he grabs S.O. and shakes him, demanding an explanation. Why did the hero just run away from the heroine? Everything was going so well. Before Wang Yi can spiral further, S.O. grabs him by the cheeks. Glowing with a bright green aura, S.O. demands to know what Wang Yi did to mess up the storyline. Wang Yi starts to panic a little because honestly, he doesn't know either. Back in the garden, Xiaoro is still standing alone. Tears start to fall as she cries softly, left behind and confused. She quietly wonders what she did wrong. Then, a gentle voice speaks to her. She turns toward the sound, eyes still filled with tears. In front of her stands a handsome teen with pink hair. He asks kindly why she's crying. Xiaoro looks up at him, completely helpless. Suddenly, she breaks down, sobbing harder. Through her tears, she tells him that she must have been a bad girl. That's the only reason she can think of for the boy running away. Wang Yi, trying his best, awkwardly attempts to calm her down. Watching this unfold, S.O.'s eyes flash again. It sternly reminds Wang Yi that under no circumstances can he harm the girl. Wang Yi reassures him he has no plans to be mean to her. He starts digging through his pockets for a handkerchief, but then panic sets in. He realizes he doesn't have one. Meanwhile, Xiaoro keeps crying, and the pressure builds. Suddenly, an idea strikes him. Without thinking too hard about it, Wang Yi hands the cat to her. He tells her she can wipe her tears with it. I dare you to try that with a real cat. That unexpected move catches her off guard. And just like that, she stops crying. I would stop crying too. Her mood shifts as she looks at the cat, thinking it's cute. She starts playing with it, completely distracted from her sadness. Wang Yi wipes the sweat from his forehead, relieved that the little emotional crisis has been avoided. Just as he starts to relax, a sweet voice calls out to him. Xiaoro looks up at him and calls him Big Brother, commenting on how kind and sweet he is. Then, with no hesitation, she tells him that she likes him. Still smiling, she gazes at him warmly. Meanwhile, S.O. is completely baffled and can't begin to understand what's happening. Wang Yi is just as surprised that the heroine likes him. He stares at her, thinking about how cute she is, and instantly starts considering whether he should give her some candy. But before he can act on that thought, someone starts approaching them. Both of them turn their heads. A boy appears, slightly out of breath. It's Qin Xin. He walks up and addresses Wang Yi as brother. Wang Yi freezes in place. He stares at Qin Xin, completely thrown off and unsure what's going on. His expression shifts into nervous confusion. Off to the side, S.O. can't help but complain. He's still irritated that Wang Yi handed him over to the girl like a stuffed animal. Sure, S.O. may not be human, but Wang Yi, he's officially a dog now. The kind cats absolutely hate. Wang Yi stands there, conflicted. He's caught between playing the villain like he's supposed to and trying to protect the girl from any kind of emotional trauma. He honestly doesn't know what to do. So to classic villain fashion, he awkwardly resorts to laughing like a villain instead. Then, trying to pivot out of the situation, he shoves the kids gently toward each other and encourages them to go play. Smiling in a stiff, uncomfortable way, he blurts out that he needs to go neuter the cat. S.O. immediately feels a wave of fear. Wang Yi doesn't wait for any more questions. He rushes off, muttering a quick goodbye, and leaves behind two very confused kids who have no idea what just happened. He slams the door shut behind him and immediately calls out to the system. Sliding down against the door, he slumps to the ground and starts going over the original story in his head. The plan was simple. The hero and heroine were supposed to have a sweet, lighthearted first meeting. Turning nervously to S.O., he asks if he did okay. The S.O. stomps its front paw in frustration and calls him an epic fail. According to S.O., instead of a romantic start, the main character's big first meeting turned into a full-blown comedy. Still fuming, S.O. declares that Wang Yi messed up the early chapters of the novel so badly that it wants to claw him. And since such a major blunder needs consequences, S.O. slams a red button without hesitation. Wang Yi panics. He stares at S.O., wide-eyed, and asks if he's seriously going to get punished. Before he can brace himself, a sudden electric jolt shoots through his entire body. Wang Yi crouches down in pain. It feels like electricity is tearing through his whole body, sharp, intense, and impossible to ignore. Then, just as suddenly as it started, the pain stops. Standing above him with a smug look, S.O. tells him to do better. Still recovering, Wang Yi hears the warning. The more mistakes he makes, the worse the punishments will get. He curls up on the floor in a fetal position, completely helpless. His eyes go blank, staring off into the distance. Then he shuts them. The last thing he hears is the system telling him to do his best. As the pain returns and everything fades into darkness, he learns something new. Electrocution hurts even more than being burned. It was a month ago when this all started. Back then, the chemistry department from Q Major was heading out on a field trip. Laughter filled the air as the bus rolled down the highway. A handsome, athletic guy turns to Wang Yi and jokes that it's time to turn on the Wang aircon. Wang Yi, clearly annoyed, snaps back that his name is Wang Yi, not Wang aircon. Without missing a beat, the guy grabs the basketball from Wang Yi's hands and says central air conditioning is a scam anyway. Wang Yi argues that his friend is the real loser, especially since he can't even handle his alcohol. Still playing keep away with the ball, the guy laughs while Wang Yi tries to snatch it back. The fun is cut short when a loud voice shouts at them to sit down. A woman stands up from her seat, furious. She demands they stop making a scene. Wang Yi turns toward the woman, feeling a bit embarrassed. He quickly apologizes. She's the squad leader, after all. Then, turning on the charm, he casually asks if she'd like to have some ice when the bus stops. The squad leader doesn't stand a chance. She's already flustered. As he continues to apologize with that same easy charm, the squad leader practically overheats. She turns away quickly and heads back to her seat. Meanwhile, Wang Yi's friend is still standing there, looking kind of clueless, seeing an opening. Wang Yi finally makes his move. He smacks the basketball right out of his friend's hand, but the victory is short-lived. In the next instant, he realizes it was a terrible mistake. Their surroundings burn like an inferno. Wang Yi jolts awake, suddenly overwhelmed by heat. As he sits up, his eyes land on something horrifying. Dead bodies lying all around him. He grabs his head, panicking. He thinks he must have lost his mind. None of this can be real. Desperate, he begs himself to wake up from the nightmare. He just wants it to end. Wang Yi feels like he can't breathe. He forces himself to wake up, gasping for air. When he finally opens his eyes, he realizes the problem. He's being smothered by a fat, glowing cat. He shoves the cat off of him, calling it by its full name, System 0, or SO. He grabs SO by the scruff of its neck and pins it down. Demanding answers, he asks if it was the one who electrocuted him. The cat doesn't deny it. Instead, it talks back and reminds Wang Yi to address it properly as SO. Wang Yi doesn't care about the name. He starts kneading the cat like dough, furious that it didn't warn him that mistakes would lead to punishment. But to his surprise, SO actually enjoys it. Unbothered, it tells him that just like good service is rewarded, failure should come with consequences. Wang Yi pushes back. He points out that the plot's already off course, and if things keep changing, he's just going to keep getting electrocuted. SO casually replies that it all depends on Wang Yi's efforts. Shifting gears, SO suddenly gets excited. It says they just need to fix one thing. The hero didn't like the heroine. SO then offers to loan Wang Yi some points to help fix it. It presents a magical item, a wig. If Wang Yi wears it, he'll temporarily become a designated character. That way, he can earn points. Wang Yi is stunned that such a ridiculous item even exists. SO tells him to go ahead and try it on. Wang Yi instinctively steps back in fear, and just like that, the mission begins. A pair of Mary Jane shoes with frilly socks walks gracefully across the polished marble floors of the mansion. Their wearer holds a blonde wig, one that, when worn, will make him look like the heroine helped Qin Xin warm up to her. That way, he'll start being nicer to Shero, and their romance can finally bloom. Beside the figure in the fancy shoes walks a glowing black cat, lit up in green. Wang Yi finally gives in to his fate. He understands now what he has to do. Turning to the cat, he complains, why does he have to wear a dress? Acting as the male villain is already exhausting. And now he has to be a woman too. SO just snickers and says they don't have a choice. The cat hovers around him, adjusting his look and making him pretty. The wig can change his appearance into that of a girl, but it won't magically change his outfit. If he's going to do this, he might as well fully commit. SO's eyes glow with a sinister light and a wide grin spreads across its face. It tells Wang Yi he's the chosen villain. After all, the lives lost because of his actions made him a natural fit for the role. Wang Yi was born to be bad. When he hesitates, SO mocks him for acting like he's going to quit just because things are hard. But Wang Yi doesn't back down. He puts on the wig, firm in his decision to stick with the role. After all, he's a criminal, someone responsible for so many deaths. Now he's determined to earn enough points to fix what he broke. He will become the greatest villain this story has ever seen. Meanwhile, in Qin Xin's room, he hears a knock on the door. That alone surprises him. In this house, no one knocks. His usual visitors just barges right in. Still wary, Qin Xin slowly opens his bedroom door. Standing there is Shero, smiling brightly and holding a bag of potato chips. Qin Xin immediately recognizes her. She's the girl from the garden. Qin Xin darkly recalls how this same girl had been spending time with his brother. Closing the door behind him, he looks at her and asks what she wants. Shero sweetly says that she brought him some snacks. In return, she just asks him not to hate her. Qin Xin doesn't move. He simply stares at her, silent and unreadable. Meanwhile, keeping up the act of being a sweet, friendly girl is becoming too much for Wang Yi. Internally, he's yelling at Qin Xin to stop being so stubborn and just take the bag of snacks already. Qin Xin, sensing something strange, tunes into the girl's inner thoughts. What he sees shocks him. Her inner thought is similar to Wang Yi's. Still unsure, Qin Xin slowly reaches out to take the snack. Wang Yi, now in panic mode, fears that if the hero and heroine don't make up soon, he's going to get electrocuted again. Just then, Qin Xin freezes in place, alarmed. Wang Yi starts to sweat, nervous about what Qin Xin might do next. He gently pushes the bag of chips toward Qin Xin's chest, but there's no reaction. Now he's worried. Could Qin Xin see through his disguise? Trying to keep up the act, Wang Yi sweetly calls Qin Xin big brother. That finally makes Qin Xin look up at him. After a moment of hesitation, Qin Xin accepts the snacks and thanks him. Wang Yi feels an immediate wave of relief. Still pretending to be Xiaoro, Wang Yi says goodbye and turns to leave, but something stops him. He wonders why he suddenly can't bring himself to walk away. Then he feels a hand tug at his skirt. Looking down, he sees Qin Xin looking up at him, asking if they can stay together. Qin Xin's expression shifts. With a more serious tone, he asks if they can eat together. Wang Yi is stunned but thrilled. Things are going way better than expected. He raises both fists in excitement, knuckles up, celebrating his success. But as he's cheering internally, Qin Xin watches him closely and thoughtfully. Wang Yi tears open the bag of chips. Still dressed as Xiaoro, he picks up a piece and offers it to Qin Xin. At that moment, he honestly just wants to make life a little better for the kid. He also figures this is a good excuse to snack. Reading Wang Yi's thoughts, Qin Xin accepts the chip. He takes a bite while Wang Yi, still fully committed to the role, quietly cheers him on to keep eating. Wang Yi is delighted to see Qin Xin eating. He asks if he likes it, and Qin Xin admits that he does. Coincidentally, the snack also happens to be Wang Yi's favorite. Then, without hesitation, Qin Xin picks up a chip and offers it to Wang Yi. The gesture hits hard. Wang Yi's touched, struggling to hold back tears at how sweet the kid is. All he wants to do is hug him, but he knows he can't. Then an idea pops into his head. Wait, he's acting as the heroine right now, so technically, hugging the kid would be fine. With teary eyes sparkling, he turns to Qin Xin. Determined to take full advantage of the opportunity to pamper him, he leans in and bites the chip right from Qin Xin's hand. Without warning, he plants a sweet kiss on Qin Xin's cheek. Qin Xin sits there frozen, completely stunned. And then the realization hits. His entire face lights up in a deep blush. From Qin Xin's point of view, everything about this girl has been strange. Ever since she's shown up at his door, something's felt off. She looks like one Xiaoro, but the thoughts, the way she acts, it's definitely his big brother, Wang Yi. He grabs his cheek, still confused, and asks her what's wrong with her. Fake Xiaoro stands up and quickly apologizes. She says it's time for her to leave. She skips toward the door, cheerful again, and waves him goodbye. But Qin Xin doesn't let it go. He runs after her. He has to know for sure if his suspicions are right. Wang Yi dashes through the bright hallway while Qin Xin calls out behind him, asking her to stop. He's not letting this go until he figures out the truth. Something suddenly catches Qin Xin's attention. He stops near a large window and stands there, lost in thought as he gazes outside. Down in the courtyard, he sees Xiaoro and her mother. Qin Xin freezes, realizing that there are two Xiaoros. It takes him a moment to process what he's seeing. Meanwhile, Wang Yi turns around and notices that Qin Xin is no longer chasing after him. He starts to wonder if Qin Xin doesn't want to be friends with Xiaoro. Qin Xin stands quietly by the window. There's a troubled look on his face, something deeper, like an unsettling realization settling in. Wang Yi watches him closely and silently pieces it together. Qin Xin's early years have been marked by pain, confinement, and isolation. There was only ever one person who treated him kindly, but even someone like Xiaoro might not be enough to pull him out of that dark past. With the way the story has twisted, Qin Xin won't be able to trust people so easily anymore. That much is clear. Wang Yi makes a decision. He's going to make sure Qin Xin gets a happy ending, because that's his job as the villain. Still pretending to be Xiaoro, Wang Yi gently tells Qin Xin not to worry. In his heart, he's decided he'll let the real Xiaoro take all the credit in the end. He flashes a bright, genuine smile and promises to come back and play with Qin Xin again. Qin Xin smiles back. It's small, but it's real. Standing quietly in the corridor, Qin Xin agrees to her promise. It's a quiet moment, but the promise is sealed. Extra, before wearing the wig, Esso reminds him that the item is powerful, but there's one condition. If he accidentally reveals his real name, the wig's effect will be cancelled. Wang Yi panics. If that happens, he fears he'll be left completely exposed. Wang Yi reflects on how all the pain he went through in the past shaped him into what people now call a villain. Wearing flashy sunglasses, he strikes a pose and boasts about being ruthless. He seems confident, even amused by his own dramatic flair. Wang Yi demands that Qin Xin speak to him more respectfully, kicking Qin Xin. though he intentionally leaves his shoes off so the kick won't hurt too much. It's harsh, but controlled. As Qin Xin flinches, Wang Yi mocks his reaction, accusing him of being flustered. He grabs Qin Xin and hits him with a padded glove, clearly more for effect than to actually harm him. Taking it further, Wang Yi escalates things again. He throws Qin Xin off the balcony. But this wasn't spontaneous. The night before, Wang Yi had planned everything, making sure that Qin Xin would land on something soft. Sure enough, Qin Xin hits a cushion, leafy area below. He winces from the impact, but the foliage softens the fall. Still, he looks shaken. Wang Yi leans over the balcony, clicking his tongue as he looks down at Qin Xin. He shows no concern, only disdain. Smirking, he calls Qin Xin pitiful. There's clear satisfaction on his face as he belittles him from above. Below, Qin Xin sits among the leaves, hurt and disoriented. Bits of foliage cling to his clothes as he tries to gather himself. His voice is weak as he calls out, addressing his brother and mentioning how much it hurts. He says it again, repeating how much it hurts, almost like he's trying to be heard, hoping for even the smallest bit of sympathy. But Wang Yi doesn't offer any. Qin Xin, still in pain, quietly asks if he did something wrong. But Wang Yi remains cold and dismissive. Even so, something shifts. Despite the pain and the rejection, Qin Xin gathers himself and makes a quiet vow. He says he'll fix things, his voice full of determination, even as he sits injured and alone. Wang Yi lets out a dismissive laugh at Qin Xin's declaration, mocking his effort to fix things. There's no sympathy, just sarcasm. But Qin Xin doesn't back down. In a quiet but firm voice, he reaffirms his resolve. He stays steady, even under pressure. Then, unexpectedly, Wang Yi tells him that he didn't do anything wrong in the first place. Qin Xin's eyes widened. Wang Yi smirks. The problem, he says, isn't what Qin Xin did. It's that Qin Xin exists at all. He drives the point home. Qin Xin should have never been born. Striking a dramatic pose, Wang Yi is suddenly met with a congratulatory scream. His expression turns triumphant as the system declares his success in completing the task. He celebrates, looking completely satisfied with how things are going. Nearby, S.O. munches happily on some cat food while announcing that they're now closer to a crucial plot point. Wang Yi, still feeling proud, comments on how crude the story is, but he's happy with their mission's current progress. He stands tall, confident in their direction. S.O. begins narrating what happens next in the original storyline. It explains how Qin Xin eventually loses trust in his entire family. The cat continues, revealing that Qin Xin's pain soon pushes him into a darker, more violent state. Everything that's happened so far has been leading to this change. Wang Yi listens and seems pleased with how things are unfolding. He puts on the magical wig again, ready to step back into Shora's shoes. It's time for the heroine to comfort the hero. Fully in disguise, Wang Yi grins menacingly. His next plan is in motion. Moments later, pretending to be Xiaoro, Wang Yi cheerfully greets Qin Xin and says she's back to play with him. Qin Xin looks surprised at her sudden enthusiasm. Still keeping up the act, Wang Yi pulls out some dolls and suggests they pretend to be a family. With a bright smile, she invites Qin Xin to join the role play. Qin Xin briefly remembers Wang Yi's earlier aggression. Meanwhile, Xiaoro, played by Wang Yi, continues assigning him the role of the father in their pretend family game. Qin Xin hesitates. Wang Yi notices his uncertainty but keeps going with a playful tone. Without warning, Wang Yi hugs Qin Xin and calls him honey, completely in character. A sudden closeness startles Qin Xin. Still smiling, Wang Yi stays committed to the game, asking if Qin Xin wants to eat or bathe first. Qin Xin sits quietly, caught between confusion and curiosity. Wang Yi, on the other hand, is silently enjoying the moment. Through the game, he's able to show Qin Xin open affection, something he normally can't do. There's a warm, genuine smile on his face as he takes in the playful exchange. Qin Xin stays in the embrace, thinking silently to himself. The phrase coming home echoes in his mind, but the meaning feels distant and unfamiliar. A memory surfaces, his mother with another man. The image leaves a bad taste in his mouth. Even with that discomfort, he can't help but notice that Wang Yi seems to enjoy being close. He thinks back to when Wang Yi, disguised as Xiaoro, kissed him on the cheek. Wang Yi gently checks in, asking if he's decided whether to keep playing their little scenario. Seeing Qin Xin's hesitation, Xiaoro offers to stop and do something else if he's uncomfortable. Qin Xin doesn't answer right away, but he also doesn't pull away. But then something shifts. Qin Shin's eyes fix on Wang Yi's lips. He can't look away, caught off guard by his own reaction. His expression grows uncertain, and he starts to stammer, asking what they should do first. His voice wavers, betraying his confusion. Then, without warning, Qin Shin leans forward and kisses Wang Yi. He says a kiss should come first. Qin Shin leans in close, catching Wang Yi completely off guard with an unexpectedly intimate gesture. Wang Yi's eyes go wide in shock. In the next instant, he jumps back, bumping into the door, cheeks flushed red. His voice gets loud as he protests, clearly overwhelmed and flustered by the sudden kiss. Still reeling, Wang Yi tries to make sense of it, while Qin Shin smirks with a hint of satisfaction. Wang Yi feels like he can hear cherubs singing in the background. He's thrilled. Finally, the hero's feelings for the heroine are starting to grow. Trying to calm down, he covers his mouth with both hands, reminding himself that they're still kids. It's way too early for them to be thinking about love. He turns back toward Qin Shin, putting on his best act as a shy, demure little maiden. In a soft voice, he tells Qin Shin that they should wait until they're older. Then, with wide, sparkling eyes, he leans in and says that he cherishes the moment and reassures Qin Shin that he did, in fact, enjoy it. Qin Shin looks away, a little flustered himself now. Wang Yi giggles, stealing a peek at him. Internally, he decides it's time to call in the real Shiro to take over. Pretending he needs to use the bathroom, Wang Yi excuses himself and quickly steps away. Qin Shin watches curiously as the door slams shut. Just a moment later, the real Shiro is pushed out the door, looking confused and slightly disoriented. The two of them stand there silently for a moment, not quite sure what to say to each other. Then Shiro spreads her arms with a big smile and cheerfully announces that she's here to play. Qin Shin stares at her, mildly stunned, with swirls of confusion circling his head. Due to his silence, Shiro's smile froze in place as she tried to figure out what just happened. Still flustered and confused, Shiro asks Qin Shin what exactly they were supposed to be playing. Qin Shin lets out a deep sigh, clearly unimpressed by the situation. Then, without much hesitation, he asks if Wang Yi made her say those things. The question catches Shiro off guard. Her face shows her surprise at the sudden accusation. Standing there nervously, she insists in her thoughts that Wang Yi didn't force her to say anything. Looking down with a sad expression, she starts explaining that Wang Yi has seemed troubled lately. As she speaks, she fidgets with her fingers, showing just how concerned she is. She quietly adds that she just wants to help Wang Yi. Qin Shin starts to wonder if Wang Yi is only harsh with him. The thought lingers, and his eyes narrow with suspicion. He then asks Shiro directly if she considers Wang Yi a good person. Shiro admits that she's a bit naive and doesn't really know what makes someone a good person. But she recalls how Wang Yi would bring her snacks, play with her, and even compliment her to the lady of the house. Based on that, she confidently concludes that Wang Yi is a gentleman. Qin Shin listens as she enthusiastically calls Wang Yi the most gentle person she knows right after their mother. He notes silently that her words seem to match her genuine thoughts. Shiro suddenly squats down, distressed. She's worried she failed Wang Yi's request. Watching her, Qin Shin realizes that she really is just as straightforward as Wang Yi described. Looking away, Qin Shin tells her it's fine. You won't tell anyone what happened. Shiro brightens up a little and suggests that they treat it like a little secret between the two of them. Shiro blushes. A short while later, the two sit side by side on the bed. Qin Shin turns to her and suggests that they pretend to be good friends whenever they're around Wang Yi. Shiro responds gently, agreeing that pretending to be friends will probably make Wang Yi happy. Qin Shin smiles faintly. As he thinks to himself, he realizes that he'll be happy too. His usual tension eases, and his demeanor softens. In a quick side segment, a reporter asks Shiro how she feels about the male lead, referring to him bluntly as a scumbag. Without hesitation, Shiro says she doesn't like him. 2 years later, Shiro appears cheerful in her school uniform, waving goodbye. Behind her stands a woman with luggage, signaling that it's time for her to leave. Shiro beams as she tells Qin Shin not to forget her. Qin Shin watches from the doorway as she walks away. He knows that Shiro's mother has remarried, and because of that, she's leaving the Wang family household. Silently, Qin Shin raises his hand in farewell. Afterward, he walks away quietly, lost in thought. From behind, someone calls out and asks if something's bothering him. In response, Qin Shin rolls up his sleeve to reveal an injury. He says it still hasn't healed. Wang Yi panics internally. He realizes the ointment he had given to Shiro, meant for Qin Shin, probably never made it to him. Seeing the wounds still red and untreated fills him with guilt and concern. Looking at the injury, Wang Yi quickly decides he'll help Qin Xin later. He mentally adds it to his list of things to fix. As he gently tugs at Qin Xin's sleeve, Wang Yi thinks about his mission. Just then, an older man standing on the upper floor calls out to both of them. His voice echoes through the grand hall of the mansion. The man, Wang Chengping, smiles warmly when he sees his two sons together. He tells them that he's arranged for Qin Xin's school admission. He adds that starting next week, the two of them will be attending school together. Qin Xin, standing quietly beside Wang Yi, shows no reaction. Wang Yi, on the other hand, is stunned. His eyes go wide as he asks if Qin Xin is really going to school. Wang Chengping confirms it. He explains that Qin Xin had previously been locked away by his mother. Wang Chengping proudly announces that Qin Xin managed to score full marks on the entrance exam. While the praise is generous, Qin Xin stays silent, his expression unchanged. Internally, the father notes that Qin Xin might be even smarter than Wang Yi and believes he should be nurtured properly. Out loud, he beams with pride and calls Qin Xin his son. Qin Xin doesn't respond. Wang Yi cheers loudly, pretending to be excited about Qin Xin starting elementary school. Wearing a wicked smile, Wang Yi tells Qin Xin that he'll take good care of him. Wang Chengping goes on to praise Wang Yi as the most obedient son and adds that the future of the company depends on him. However, he really thinks Wang Yi is not a suitable heir. Wang Yi quickly jumps in and urges his father to leave so he can spend time alone with Qin Xin. Their father agrees happily, intending to meet his secretary so that he could produce more heirs. Once Wang Chengping walks away, Wang Yi's smile drops. Qin Xin, unsure of what to expect, softly calls out to Wang Yi. Suddenly, Wang Yi explodes. He shouts at Qin Xin not to call him brother and grabs him. As he pulls Qin Xin closer, Wang Yi accuses him of trying to steal his position. He growls that going to school won't change anything, no matter how smart he is. Even while acting aggressive, Wang Yi internally complains about how over-the-top this mission is. Meanwhile, Qin Xin silently wonders why Wang Yi always seems weak when he hits people. Trembling, Qin Xin says he never intended to take anything away. Grabbing Qin Xin by the head, Wang Yi glares at him and asks threateningly if he dares to go against him. Then, in a harsh command, he tells Qin Xin to swear that he won't make any friends at school. Wang Yi continues to push Qin Xin further, making him pledge to so many things, swearing to fail his exams, to obey every order, and to never go against him. Qin Xin slumps in silence, offering no resistance. Wang Yi grabs him and demands that he swear out loud. Sitting confidently, Wang Yi tells Qin Xin to go even further and declare himself Wang Yi's property. As he gives the command, he smugly thinks to himself that at least he made sure to clean his feet beforehand. Qin Xin hesitates. Internally, Wang Yi believes that this should be the moment when the main character finally starts fighting back. It's supposed to trigger that turning point. Qin Xin clenches his teeth in frustration while Wang Yi presses his foot down. In the original plot, this moment leads to Wang Yi locking the hero in a dark cabinet. That incident triggers Qin Xin's future claustrophobia. Later on in the story, it's Shouero who comforts a terrified Qin Xin during one of those episodes, and that moment sparks a key romantic subplot between them. Wang Yi pauses to wonder why romantic protagonists always seem to develop strange illnesses. Suddenly, Qin Xin lets out a cat-like noise, startling Wang Yi completely. Then, without warning, Qin Xin crouches down, ready to charge straight at him. Qin Xin, blindfolded and unsure of what to do, struggles to follow instructions. Without his sight, he cannot read Wang Yi's inner thoughts. Qin Xin braces himself, a look of determination on his face. Wang Yi leans in, asserting dominance by calling Qin Xin his dog. He expects that 2 years of relentless attacks have built a deep well of resentment in Qin Xin. With grim resolve, Qin Xin charges forward. Wang Yi tilts his head back and smiles, surrendering to Qin Xin's attack, treating it as some form of atonement. But instead of a bite or a punch, he hears barking. Wang Yi's eyes fly open in confusion. Under the harsh light, Qin Xin barks again. Wang Yi jolts. Qin Xin curls up against Wang Yi's thigh like a loyal puppy. Completely thrown off, Wang Yi scrambles to push him away, overwhelmed and panicked by the absurd scene. Something feels wrong, really wrong. Wang Yi grabs Qin Xin's face and stares at him, trying to figure out why he isn't reacting with the expected rage. Confused, Wang Yi doesn't realize that Qin Xin is interpreting things very differently. As he is unable to see Wang Yi's inner thoughts, he decides that Wang Yi wants him to do the opposite of what he says. In the past, whenever Wang Yi called him ugly to his face, his inner thoughts would say that Qin Xin is cute. Wang Yi, frustrated, aggressively taunts Qin Xin to fight back. But Qin Xin, sticking to his new logic, thinks to himself that if doing the opposite is always the right move, then fighting back must be the wrong one. So, he stays still. He calmly promises to behave and follow Wang Yi's instructions at school. Wang Yi starts to panic, telling him not to make any promises. Now flustered, Wang Yi wonders if he's accidentally caused Qin Xin to develop some weird behavioral pattern. Trying to stay calm, Wang Yi reassures himself that Qin Xin is fine. They'll grow up to be strict and disciplined, normal even. Wang Yi shifts gears and tells Qin Xin to stand up. Frustrated and thinking about the requirements of his mission, Wang Yi insists again, yelling for Qin Xin to bite him. He believes the system needs some visible injuries to trigger the next plot point. When Qin Xin still refuses, Wang Yi snaps. He hits Qin Xin. Qin Xin stumbles back from the force, completely off balance. Desperately, Wang Yi tries to catch him before his head hits the floor. His concern is immediate and real. He manages to stop the fall just in time, holding Qin Xin protectively as they both end up on the ground. Wang Yi nervously checks on Qin Xin. Surprised, Qin Xin did not expect that Wang Yi would catch him. Wang Yi winces, clearly in pain from the fall, but still focuses on Qin Xin, wondering if he's injured. Despite his discomfort, his concern is genuine. Suddenly, the sound of a door creaking open. Wang Yi's mother steps into the room and casually announces that she's heading to the mall with his grandmother. With a cheerful tone, she adds that they're going to buy more clothes. But her smile fades instantly as she sees the scene before her. Wang Yi on the ground, holding Qin Xin down. Wang Yi also freezes, then panics. He quickly tries to explain that it's not what it looks like. His mother, horrified and furious, assumes something wildly inappropriate is going on. Without waiting for an explanation, she scolds Wang Yi and storms out of the room, dragging Qin Xin with her. In a comedic bonus panel, Qin Xin is shown sulking and rejecting the offer of props for a play, clearly still emotionally worn out from the chaos. Wang Yi stands over a kneeling Qin Xin, capturing a moment that would go on to mark a key point in Qin Xin's trauma. Qin Xin is shown bound while Wang Yi restrains him. The narration makes it clear, this scene of abuse is only the beginning. The real turning point is coming, especially once Mrs. Wang gets involved. Moments later, Mrs. Wang bursts in and sees Wang Yi bleeding. Alarmed, she demands to know why. Her reaction lays the groundwork for a major misunderstanding centered around Qin Xin. SO explains that this event triggers the biggest scandal in the Wang family's history. It's the lead-in to a major reveal. With tension rising, Mrs. Wang warns Wang Yi not to get injured again. She mentions that if he ever needs a blood transfusion, it could expose his secret. She lets it slip. He might not be biologically part of the family. Shocked, Wang Yi begins to piece it together. He isn't actually his father's son. Wang Yi's face is ashen. He had planned to fake an injury before his mother interrupted. He's starting to understand how this one scene spiraled into something different than the original plan. Now he knows he has to wrap things up and make the story believable, trying to downplay the situation. Wang Yi casually tells his mom that it was all just a misunderstanding. He shrugs it off, saying he was only making life difficult for Qin Xin. Nothing more. In a bold move, he confidently adds that sexual orientation doesn't matter and reassures himself that the Wang family isn't going to crumble over something like this. But the mood quickly shifts. Mrs. Wang grows visibly upset, snaps at him, saying he was never part of the Wang bloodline and questioning what right he has to do anything in the family. Both of them fall silent. Wang Yi is confused, while his mother looks like she already regrets saying too much. Wang Yi, now eager for answers, leans in and pushes her for more. He demands to know what she meant when she said he's not part of the Wang family. Wang Yi's mother sighs and tries to brush off the conversation, telling him to just forget it, but then she changes her mind. She decides it's finally time to come clean, saying that now that he's older, he deserves to know the truth. Wang Yi quickly urges her to just say it. He wants to hear the truth, but also needs to check on Qin Xin right after. His mother finally reveals that Wang Yi is actually the son she had with another man. She reveals that Qin Xin might be the true biological son of the Wang family. As his mother walks away down the hallway, she reflects on how no one ever questioned paternity. She credits it to paying off the doctor at the time. Meanwhile, Wang Yi continues down the hallway alone. He pauses in front of a door, considering the situation. He smirks upon entering the room. He breaks into laughter. boldly declaring that he doesn't care anymore. The original plot has already jumped forward several years, so there's no point in sticking to it. Reflecting on everything, Wang Yi admits to himself that being evil hasn't really led to anything meaningful. From now on, he decides to stay low and avoid messing with fate. Peeking into the cabinet, he wonders how Qin Xin is holding up. Inside, Qin Xin is visibly anxious and uncomfortable. Wang Yi watches him closely, evaluating whether the hero's suffering has deepened enough to serve the story. Suddenly, Qin Xin notices a shadow looming from outside. He calls out to Wang Yi, panicking. Wang Yi reminds himself that he can't answer. Responding could ruin the setup. He's supposed to stay in control, stay distant. But then Qin Xin speaks again, clearly distressed. He pleads through the slats, saying that he's uncomfortable and needs help. He starts banging on the door, crying out in desperation. He apologizes over and over, begging to be let out. His screams are like spears to Wang Yi's heart. Qin Xin sits in a quiet room, breathing heavily. An hour has passed. He remains alone inside the dark cabinet, visibly distressed and anxious. As the silence stretches, he comes to a realization. He was locked up simply because he didn't understand what Wang Yi meant. He recalls how Wang Yi's mother had called him away right before it happened. He remembers the angry expression on Wang Yi's stepmother's face, furious and cold. Qin Xin begins to wonder if he did something wrong. He's reminded of his own mother, who would often yell at him and blame him for ruining her life. A dark thought begins to settle in. Maybe his birth really was a mistake, just like Wang Yi once said. He recalls those cruel words from Wang Yi, that his very existence was a mistake. But then, in his imagination, a chibi version of Wang Yi suddenly yells the opposite. It wasn't a mistake. In Wang Yi's thoughts, he's calling Qin Xin the best-behaved kid. Wang Yi believes Qin Xin will become someone amazing, a savior. He sees him as his own hope. Qin Xin is stunned. The idea that he might be Wang Yi's savior takes him by surprise. He starts reflecting on how Wang Yi, despite everything he said, never truly looked down on him. Qin Xin begins to realize that Wang Yi had even endured pain just to show him kindness in his own way. With growing regret, Qin Xin blames himself. He feels like he's failed to live up to Wang Yi's expectations. Qin Xin curls up, overwhelmed with worry. He fears that Wang Yi might be disappointed in him. He's not afraid of being punished. He just wants Wang Yi to come back. His anxiety grows, and he begins to scratch his bound hands. In a whisper, he says Wang Yi's name over and over again, clinging to the hope that he hasn't been left behind. The door creaks. Qin Xin looks up in shock. Someone might be opening the cabinet. He hears footsteps approaching and quickly wonders if Wang Yi has come back. His heart fills with hope that he'll finally be let out. He repeats the thought to himself. Wang Yi always came back before. He believes it'll be the same this time. He dreams of Wang Yi opening the door. There's a gentle expression on his face as he reaches out a hand toward Qin Xin. Qin Xin's heart races with anticipation, but then confusion sets in. The door isn't opening. He feels a presence outside the locker and hopes that it is Wang Yi. Nervously, Qin Xin calls out, voice shaky. He needs to know if it's really his brother standing there. Shocked and overwhelmed with emotion, Qin Xin cries out his name, asking if it's truly him on the other side of the door. Qin Xin tries to draw his attention. He cries out, expressing how terrible he feels for everything that's happened. Qin Xin continues to bang on the door, desperately begging to be let out. Through his tears, he admits his mistake and pleads for forgiveness. On the other side of the door, Wang Yi sits in silence, filled with regret. He doesn't say anything out loud, but in his thoughts, he quietly apologizes. Meanwhile, Qin Xin continues calling out to him in desperation. But then something shifts in his tone. Qin Xin's voice hardens as he declares that if Wang Yi doesn't let him out, he'll regret it. With a chilling edge, he vows that he'll never try to meet Wang Yi's expectations again. As morning arrives, Wang Yi stays in bed. The calm and peaceful view outside stands in stark contrast to the emotional chaos from the night before. Meanwhile, S.O., the Black Cat system, cheerfully congratulates Wang Yi, announcing that the mission related to Qin Xin's phobia has been completed. Wang Yi, who stayed up all night, looked completely dazed. Suddenly, Wang Yi reacts with shock. The mission is complete, which means something important must follow. Panic sets in. He bolts down the hallway, rushing as fast as he can to get to Qin Xin. Bursting into the room, Wang Yi throws open the cabinet door. What he sees stops him cold. Qin Xin is curled up, clearly in bad shape. Wang Yi calls out to him, alarmed by his condition. Qin Xin weakly responds, his breathing heavy and shallow. He's clearly drained, physically and emotionally. Wang Yi pulls him out of the cabinet and immediately begins checking on him, worried. Qin Xin, in his thoughts, notes how cold his own skin feels. As Wang Yi gently taps his face to wake him, Qin Xin tries to speak. Internally, he realizes that he hasn't eaten or had anything to drink. Wang Yi urges him to wake up, but Qin Xin can barely react. He looks completely spent, frustrated and afraid. Wang Yi wonders how things spiraled out of control so quickly. Then, slowly, Qin Xin opens his eyes and softly calls out Wang Yi's name. That's when Wang Yi realizes what he needs: water. Already holding a glass, Wang Yi quickly brings it over and urges him to drink fast. Qin Xin doesn't respond out loud, but he starts drinking silently. As he does, Wang Yi promises that once he finishes, he'll take him to get cleaned up and bathed. Qin Xin is clearly dehydrated, yet he still won't drink. Pushing the glass of water to his lips again, Wang Yi looks frustrated. In a moment of panic, Wang Yi yells at him, asking if he really wants to die. His voice cracks with desperation. Leaning in, Wang Yi tries again to help him drink. Wang Yi gently pours some water into Qin Xin's mouth, but his body is weak. He coughs as he tries to swallow. Qin Xin turns his head away, coughing violently. Wang Yi holds the cup and watches him, a look of concern appearing on his face. The coughing continues. Qin Xin's eyes are teary, and his face is flushed. He's clearly in distress. Wang Yi silently observes him. Inside, he reflects that the task is complete. Qin Xin has truly suffered. Qin Xin looks back at him without saying a word. He wipes his mouth with his sleeve, his expression unreadable. Wang Yi turns away, thinking that after this, Qin Xin probably won't want to get close to him again. And that's exactly what he wants. As he walks away, Wang Yi tells himself there's no need for any more missions for now. Maybe the best thing he can do is just give Qin Xin a stable life. He tries to reassure himself that if he keeps his distance, he won't need to harm Qin Xin anymore. But behind him, Qin Xin shakily stands up. Clenching his teeth, Qin Xin makes a vow to himself. Just as Wang Yi starts to walk away, Qin Xin suddenly hugs him from behind, wrapping his arms around him tightly. The gesture stops Wang Yi in his tracks. He's completely startled. Qin Xin clutches him with everything he has, refusing to let go. His voice is quiet but firm as he pleads with Wang Yi, asking him not to lock him up again. In his mind, he makes a silent vow. He won't let Wang Yi escape. It's his turn to imprison Wang Yi. Outside the window, a white cat scratches anxiously, desperate to get inside. The cat excitedly interacts through the glass with S.O., the black cat system, who responds with mild amusement. Inside, S.O. tells Wang Yi that he shared some canned food with the stray. Wang Yi, focus, is seen working at a desk. As he watches the cat, S.O. reflects that animals not of this world usually don't have a good ending. Wang Yi silently listens, eyes still scanning his book. Curious, S.O. asks what he's doing. Wang Yi replies without looking up he has to study. The plot forced him to switch from science to liberal arts, and now he's catching up. S.O. tries to tempt him, offering a potion that grants knowledge. He says it'll bring success and help him through school easily. But Wang Yi isn't having it. He accuses S.O. of trying to trick him into wasting points and calls him a bad cat. Shouting his refusal, Wang Yi declares he doesn't want the potion. He'd rather live a quiet, simple life and just study like a normal person. Wang Yi bursts into loud laughter, feeling triumphant about his choice. S.O. stares at him with growing concern and confusion. Puzzled, S.O. questions Wang Yi's unusual behavior. He isn't acting like a typical rich second-generation heir. When asked, S.O. explains that he thought Wang Yi would rather be out socializing or playing around. The cat is honestly surprised by his desire to stay home and hit the books. Finally, Wang Yi admits that S.O. is right. As they don't belong in this world, there's no point in making friends. Wang Yi rests his hand on the window pane, looking out at the white cat. He warns that emotional attachment always leaves something behind. S.O. doesn't respond. It just sits there, calmly observing Wang Yi as the mood thickens with unspoken tension. Suddenly, a knock interrupts the silence. Wang Yi turns toward the door. S.O. also turns, both of them pausing to listen. S.O. casually guesses that the male lead might be out of school already. Wang Yi doesn't answer. He just silently sets his book down. S.O. then asks if he's going to open the door. Wang Yi says no. If he does, he might end up hurting Qin Xin again. S.O. looks unimpressed as the knocking continues. After a moment, S.O. comments on how noisy it's getting. Wang Yi begins to look irritated. the sound grating on his nerves. Finally, Wang Yi bursts out in frustration, yelling at Qin Xin to stop knocking so loudly. He even threatens to hit him again if he keeps it up. But Qin Xin doesn't back down. He calls out to Wang Yi while holding a stack of papers, his face serious and determined. Then, with pride sparkling in his eyes, Qin Xin proudly announces that he went to school. He practically glows with confidence. Wang Yi looks confused. He asks if that's all Qin Xin came to say. Qin Xin stays silent for a moment before handing him the papers. With a steady voice, Qin Xin promises that he'll keep scoring full marks on all his tests. Wang Yi stares at him, reacting with complete disbelief. Qin Xin boldly declares that once he grows taller, he won't let Wang Yi bully him anymore. Then, without waiting for a response, he dashes off, calling out a quick goodbye over his shoulder. Wang Yi stands frozen in place, completely stunned. S.O., watching from nearby, is equally confused. Wang Yi turns to him and questions what's gotten into Qin Xin. Wang Yi starts to wonder if Qin Xin is beginning to stand up for himself. S.O., ever the system observer, comments that maybe Qin Xin is finally awakening the confidence of a male lead. The two share a silent moment. Then they both cheer. They've completed another mission. They both cry in relief. The next day, there's another round of knocking at the door. Wang Yi tiredly opens it, only to find Qin Xin standing there again, beaming with energy. Qin Xin eagerly shows off his test results, but admits he didn't get full marks this time. Then, with absolute seriousness, he asks Wang Yi to punish him for falling short of his goal. In a hilarious final moment, Wang Yi leans over and whispers to S.O. that something definitely feels very wrong about all of this. Qin Xin pleads with Wang Yi to punish him for his mistake. Wang Yi is unsure of how to respond. He nervously asks if Qin Xin actually enjoys being punished. That thought alone throws him off. Qin Xin looks confused by the question. Shaking his head, Qin Xin says he doesn't like it. Wang Yi breathes a small sigh of relief. Then, Qin Xin's expression shifts. He begins to say something more serious. He admits that being around Wang Yi means he'll definitely get bullied, but even knowing that, he still chooses to stay. Wang Yi looks uneasy, even a little scared, after hearing those heartfelt words. Suddenly, Wang Yi snaps. He grabs Qin Xin by the strap of his bag and shouts that he's had enough. Qin Xin falls to the floor as Wang Yi yells at him to leave and stop bothering him. Now in front of the closed door, Qin Xin doesn't move. Eventually, he starts gathering the scattered books on the floor. As he picks them up, he thinks to himself that Wang Yi has probably run off again. Disappointment settles on his face. Then, something catches his eye. Among the books, he notices something unusual. He picks it up. It's a girly romance comic that one of his classmates gave him. He stares at it, surprised and confused. A flashback shows one of Qin Xin's classmates excitedly telling him that the male lead in a romance comic looks just like him. Qin Xin, unsure how to react, seems completely baffled by the comparison. Curious, he opens the book and begins to read. As he flips through the pages, something starts to click. He notices certain things about the male lead's actions and personality. Reflecting on what he's read, Qin Xin realizes the comic follows a very cliché love story. Still, it leaves him deep in thought. The next day, Qin Xin approaches Wang Yi with a small bouquet of hand-picked flowers. Shyly, he says he picked them that morning just for him. Wang Yi stares at him in confusion as Qin Xin holds out the flowers. S.O. watches nearby, equally curious. Wang Yi asks why he's being given flowers. Qin Xin simply replies that there's no particular reason. Then, without hesitation, Qin Xin adds that he read in a girl's novel that someone like Wang Yi suits flowers. Wang Yi is stunned into silence. S.O. awkwardly coughs, trying not to laugh. A beat later, Wang Yi loses his temper. He throws the flowers right back at Qin Xin, yelling in frustration. Qin Xin, unfazed, calmly wipes his face. He asks Wang Yi if he's mocking him for being as delicate as a flower. Wang Yi storms off, muttering that Qin Xin is a weird kid. Left behind, Qin Xin stands there watching him walk away. Wang Yi feels unsettled. He wonders why Qin Xin keeps sticking so close to him. But no matter how much Qin Xin wants to be near him, Wang Yi can't offer the kind of warmth that Qin Xin is looking for. Even after graduating from grade school, Qin Xin would likely keep seeking him out, but Wang Yi has already made up his mind. He knows there are more important tasks ahead. He stands alone, his resolve solid. His thoughts drift back to the reason he signed a contract with the system in the first place. Wang Yi, now shown in casual clothes, remembers standing off to the side after being reprimanded by the squad leader for roughhousing on the bus. If only he hadn't smacked the basketball from his friend's hand. If only he had just held onto it. He recalls that earning system points could allow him to exchange for items connected to the past. If only he could go back, maybe things would be different. His memory sharpens around one moment. He had grabbed the basketball. But at the same time, a piece of luggage slid loose from the overhead compartment. It was heading straight for the squad leader's head. Thinking quickly, Wang Yi leaps to protect her, yelling for her to duck. In doing so, he lost grip of the ball. The basketball launched through the air. It bounced violently inside the moving bus, ricocheting off walls and narrowly missing passengers. The energy in the scene grew tense and chaotic. Wang Yi's confusion quickly turned to horror as he began to realize how serious things were. He reflects, haunted, on the classmates who died that day, all because of him. Flames erupt, the bus is engulfed in fire, and panic takes over. Trapped under debris, Wang Yi reacts to the heat, the weight, and the danger all around him. Later, he sits in the aftermath, surrounded by classmates who are injured, some worse than others. His voice echoes in his mind, full of guilt. Can any of them be saved? In the cafeteria, students sit eating quietly. The atmosphere is calm and ordinary, filled with the typical sounds of lunch and chatter. Wang Yi strolls in with a cheerful hum, casually reciting poetic lines about time passing. A brown-haired man nearby gives him a confused look and asks why he's suddenly acting so poetic. Wang Yi responds with a smile, saying he was just thinking about how university is almost over. It's a moment of nostalgia for him. Meanwhile, Wang Yi reflects on the past. It's been 7 years since the last mission involving a romantic plotline. He recalls how, throughout those years, he made a conscious effort to avoid running into Qin Xin. As for Wang Yi, he had given up his former path and, like a character straight out of a novel, chose to study economics instead. One day, frustrated and angry after being accused of cheating, Wang Yi crushed a can in his hand. He snapped, questioning why a smart villain couldn't also get a good education. The accusation had clearly hit a nerve. S.O., the Black Cat, calmly responded by saying that villains are usually the smartest characters in a story. Wang Yi immediately denied that claim, but S.O. insisted it was true. The cat went on to explain that villains are often written in a way that alienates readers. They're deliberately portrayed in a negative light. Typically, these characters are people with wealth or status, things that automatically make them seem intimidating or out of reach. S.O. continued, saying that villains usually wield their power slowly, not for progress, but just to make life harder for the protagonist. Wang Yi, still thinking it over, asked if villains are written that way just so they can be eliminated later, giving readers a sense of justice. The Black Cat nodded. S.O. casually comments that not all villains lose their intelligence before their downfall. Some just die suddenly for dramatic effect. It adds that, in order for the novel to progress correctly, someone has to take on the role of the villain. That's just how the system works. Wang Yi is reminded that it's his job to step into that role and replace the original villain. It's his duty in this story's world. The system explains that this responsibility ensures the story ends the way it's supposed to. A compelling, complete narrative. Wang Yi laughs, acknowledging just how important the task really is. The weight of his role isn't lost on him. He fully accepts it, knowing that his efforts make the story more exciting, and that every mission completed brings him closer to more points. S.O. agrees but gently reminds Wang Yi that they'll need to prepare properly for the main storyline. Things are about to get serious. Just then, S.O. notices something up ahead. In the distance, a group of students has gathered, buzzing with excitement. They seem to be admiring someone new. Wang Yi follows their gaze and sees a crowd of girls near the school gate, chattering about a handsome newcomer. Both Wang Yi and S.O. freeze. They immediately realize who it is. The crowd surrounds Qin Xin, asking questions and fawning over him. But Qin Xin remains silent, giving off an aloof charm that only draws them in more. A close-up reveals him clearly. Qin Xin is now 17 years old, a high school sophomore. He's grown taller, more composed. His eyes lock onto Wang Yi, and he greets him calmly. Wang Yi instantly regrets not making a quicker escape. Trying to keep his composure, Wang Yi clears his throat and steps forward. He tells the crowd not to overwhelm Qin Xin, explaining that he's just shy. Then, with a casual tone, he adds that Qin Xin is his younger brother. Their presence creates a buzz. Both of them are clearly attractive, though each has a completely different vibe. Wang Yi exudes a confident, playful charm, while Qin Xin remains calm and quietly intense. The prince and the bad boy type. Wang Yi smirks and addresses Qin Xin as his good brother, his tone dripping with light sarcasm. Qin Xin, standing stiffly beside him, looks quietly annoyed but says nothing. With a grin, Wang Yi throws an arm around Qin Xin's shoulder and jokes that his presence is such a hassle. Qin Xin continues to stay silent, simply tolerating the contact. He glances sideways at Wang Yi, but then something shifts. Qin Xin's lips curl slightly, just enough to hint at a small smile. Finally, Qin Xin smiles genuinely and agrees. Standing side by side, Qin Xin tells Wang Yi that he will listen to what he wants to say. Wang Yi and Qin Xin walk side by side. The atmosphere is peaceful and quiet, a rare calm between the two. Wang Yi glances at Qin Xin and questions why he suddenly came to his school and why he isn't wearing his uniform. Qin Xin explains simply that school ended early today and he didn't wear the uniform because he planned to go home with Wang Yi. Almost defensively, Qin Xin asks if there's a problem with that. Wang Yi is left speechless, caught off guard by his boldness. Wang Yi eventually recovers and expresses his disapproval. He says he doesn't want to be seen going home with someone who breaks school rules. Inwardly, Wang Yi sighs. Qin Xin just isn't as cute as he used to be. Trying to dismiss him, Wang Yi tells Qin Xin to go home because he has plans to meet a friend and go clubbing later. But Qin Xin quickly responds. He names the exact club Wang Yi mentioned, warning him it's not a place he should be going to. There's a pause. Qin Xin looked hesitant, his expression touched with concern. Then he firmly tells Wang Yi not to go. He insists that Wang Yi should just head home instead. Qin Xin grabs Wang Yi, adding that if it's about the uniform, he'll wear it, clearly trying to resolve the issue just to stay close. Wang Yi reacts with confusion and disbelief, completely thrown by Qin Xin's sudden seriousness. Flailing his arms, Wang Yi argues that no one wants to see a grown man walking around in his school uniform. He tries to shake off Qin Xin's grip, but it doesn't work. As he struggles, Wang Yi starts to wonder how Qin Xin suddenly became so strong. It hits him all at once. Qin Xin is taller now, stronger, and no longer afraid of him. Wang Yi reminds himself that villains shouldn't lose. With renewed determination, he steels himself for action. He suddenly charges at Qin Xin, ready to attack. Qin Xin, caught off guard, doesn't react right away. Instead, he watches silently as Wang Yi lunges forward. In a burst of frustration, Wang Yi begins stomping on Qin Xin's foot over and over. Despite being kicked, Qin Xin stays calm. Wang Yi continues stomping, thinking to himself that no protagonist would tolerate being treated like this. But Qin Xin doesn't flinch. He remains unbothered, unfazed. Eventually, Qin Xin calmly tells Wang Yi to stop overreacting. Without warning, Qin Xin grabs Wang Yi's leg mid-stomp. Wang Yi, now suspended slightly off balance, yells at Qin Xin to let him go. Instead, Qin Xin pushes forward, sending Wang Yi stumbling back until his head hits the wall behind him. Qin Xin raises one arm and places it on the wall, effectively cornering Wang Yi. In a low voice, he murmurs that Wang Yi is being fake. Suddenly, Wang Yi sees something swoop in from the side. S.O., the black cat, charges at Qin Xin and sinks its teeth into his arm. The distraction gives Wang Yi the break he needed. Taking advantage of the moment, Wang Yi shoves Qin Xin off and bolts away as fast as he can. Qin Xin stands still, the black cat still clinging to his arm with its tiny fangs. He looks down at the pesky creature with a sinister gaze. In that moment, he realizes this isn't just any cat. This is the system Wang Yi always talks about in his thoughts. With clear disdain, Qin Xin grabs the cat by the scruff of its neck. If it weren't for the system, his brother wouldn't have to pretend to be a villain at all. During the time skip, Qin Xin had spent a lot of time reading novels, trying to understand what was really going on. And in every single story, he noticed the same thing. Evil villains never got happy endings. It was always the same outcome. Either they were seriously injured, locked away in a sanitarium, or exiled to some faraway place. Eventually, Qin Xin lets the cat go, releasing it from his grip. As the black cat slits from his hand, Qin Xin stands quietly, wondering to himself, what should he do now? Wang Yi pants heavily after sprinting so fast. He leans an arm against a post to catch his breath while S.O. slumps on the ground beside his foot, just as exhausted. S.O. mutters, wondering how the protagonist became so sly and manipulative all of a sudden. Still trembling from the unexpected workout, Wang Yi replies that Qin Xin has gotten incredibly strong enough to lift his leg like it was nothing. He also heard that Qin Xin scored full marks on his last test, which means he's not just strong, but smart too. Wang Yi grumbles that the players in this story are having it rough. He worries that at this rate, he won't be able to complete all his tasks. So calmly explains that villains are usually awarded generous points, and they seem to be playing on regular difficulty. However, the ability to clear the game still varies from person to person. So then shifts the conversation, telling Wang Yi about the most legendary player in the system's history, a player who had a 100% success rate even without using magical items. Wang Yi, still recovering from everything, decides he deserves ice cream after the stressful ordeal. He hands a cone to So and reflects that someone with such passion for completing missions must have been driven by something. He wonders aloud what that player used their points for. Don't give cats ice cream, they're not advanced systems like So. So licks the ice cream and explains that the player was a special case. The player exchanged his points for the ability to read people's minds. That sounds familiar. After returning to his original timeline, he became a schoolmaster. But it didn't end well. According to rumors, the mind-reading ability eventually drove him crazy. He self-destructed, and now his soul supposedly wanders the world. Wang Yi's sweat drops as he hears the grim ending. He realizes that maybe having that kind of ability is not for the faint of heart. Later, as he rides a city bike with So perched on his shoulders, Wang Yi confidently tells the cat that he's different. He doesn't need some supernatural ability. All he needs is a night out at the club. He brakes harshly, setting his foot down as he looks up at the brightly lit building ahead. The glow from the signs above makes his heart race with excitement. Inside the club, Wang Yi is surrounded by friends who pamper him, calling him young master with playful admiration. A second-generation rich guy named Xiang raises his glass of alcohol and asks what made Wang Yi change his mind and finally come out to the club. Wang Yi smirks, brushing it off. He says he had the time and decided to be more flexible tonight. As he speaks, someone beside him pours him another drink. Looking up with a grin, Wang Yi tells them he once heard there were hot girls at the club, and now he wants to have some fun with them. Xiang clinks his glass with Wang Yi's and says they should definitely drink more to keep the fun going. His friends all cheer enthusiastically at the thought of more alcohol and a wilder night. But even in the middle of all the noise, Wang Yi stays focused. Internally, he reflects on why he really came here. It's not just for fun. He has a mission. In the original story script, Shero ended up working as a waitress at this very club after transferring schools. That job became the reason she crossed paths with the villain. And later, in a dramatic turn, the male protagonist would swoop in and rescue her, cementing their bond. Wang Yi knows he needs to scout the layout of the club carefully if he wants to stage the scene correctly. Just then, a knock echoes at the door. The club manager walks in, followed by a group of elegantly dressed women. With a smile, he announces that he's brought in the special service. The guys erupt in cheers at the sight. Xiang casually drapes his arm around Wang Yi's shoulder, leaning in close with a conspiratorial grin. He says he's got something to share. With a knowing smirk, Xiang tells Wang Yi that this club is different from the others. It doesn't just have girls, it has bartenders too. From outside the VIP lounge, a sleek figure steps in, catching the attention of those inside. His black hair glints under the dim club lighting as he moves with quiet confidence. Wang Yi catches a glimpse of the newcomer's side profile and instantly freezes. That face, it's painfully familiar. As Xiang continues explaining that the bartenders in this club will do anything the customers ask of them, the new bartender looks up. His eyes meet Wang Yi's. It's Qin Xin. The manager gestures toward the group and tells them to make their selections. Qin Xin stands silently, his gaze challenging as he looks down at Wang Yi. Xiang squints at him and casually remarks that the bartender looks a lot like Wang Yi's brother. Wang Yi, trying to keep his cool, agrees with a dismissive shrug, pretending that it's just a look-alike. But in his mind, he throws a metaphorical glass of water at his own face. This isn't some random bartender. It's not a look-alike. It's Qin Xin. It's really him. Xiang, oblivious, chuckles and suggests Wang Yi take out his frustrations on this bartender, especially since he always complains about his brother. Inside his mind, Wang Yi grabs Xiang by the collar, threatening him for daring to insult Qin Xin, even as a joke. Back in reality, Wang Yi calmly sets his glass down on the table and tells Xiang that he doesn't need encouragement. He can choose his own target just fine. A smirk creeps across Wang Yi's face, his canine showing slightly as he looks up with a glint in his eye. Dangerous, calculated. Across from him, Qin Xin simply watches with a calm, unreadable expression. Wang Yi turns to the manager and requests the black-haired bartender specifically. The manager, pleased, nudges Qin Xin forward. He's thrilled the new guy managed to snag a high-class customer on his very first day. Qin Xin steps forward with his forehead lifted and his posture straight, eyes fixed on Wang Yi. Wang Yi leans back in his seat with his arms crossed, staring up at him. With one eye hidden behind his bangs, Qin Xin begins to speak and addresses Wang Yi as master. Qin Xin kneels down gracefully and begins to pour a glass of expensive wine for Wang Yi, keeping his expression neutral. The motion is smooth, calculated, part of the role he's decided to play. Zhuang Xiang watches the scene and lets out a chuckle, clearly impressed. He compliments Wang Yi, saying that he really is on a different level, the kind of guy who can even make a bartender kneel. Wang Yi, however, starts to get annoyed. Zhuang Xiang's vulgar comments grate on his nerves. Still, with the whole group enjoying themselves, it would look strange if he were the only one not playing along. He lowers his gaze to Qin Xin, who remains silently focused on the wine. Wang Yi thinks to himself that no one would ever guess a legitimate son of the Wang family would be working as a bartender in a place like this. Mentally, Wang Yi wants to gouge out his own eyes. This wasn't supposed to happen. If anyone discovers Qin Xin's identity, it could derail the entire storyline and send things spiraling into unknown territory. From beneath his bangs, Qin Xin glances up at him. Eyes calm but unreadable. Wang Yi slowly reaches out a hand, while Qin Xin watches his every move with careful attention. Leaning forward, Wang Yi brings his face close, his breath brushing against Qin Xin's cheek. In a hushed voice, he asks what the brat thinks he's doing in a club like this. Qin Xin doesn't respond right away. Staying in character, he grabs Wang Yi's shoulder and leans in seductively. Keeping up the act, he whispers that he doesn't understand what Wang Yi is talking about. Wang Yi's patience runs out. He growls that he'll teach him a lesson. He stands up abruptly and grabs Qin Xin by the collar, lifting him with force. His voice sharp. Wang Yi accuses Qin Xin of being unscrupulous, just like his mother. Qin Xin's head dips slightly, his eyes hidden behind his bangs. In a quiet voice, he calls Wang Yi brother. He refers to Wang Yi as Gugga, which is similar to the Korean word oppa. Slowly, he raises both hands and places them gently around Wang Yi's head, almost like a caress. In a soft, mournful tone, he laments that Wang Yi would even come to a dirty place like this. Qin Xin wraps his arms around Wang Yi, effectively caging him in place. His voice is low but laced with frustration. He's clearly upset that Wang Yi would rather come to a club like this than go home with him. Wang Yi stares at him in disbelief. He thinks Qin Xin has completely lost it. The idea that Qin Xin actually applied to be a bartender at this club just because Wang Yi didn't want to hang out with him seems absurd. Qin Xin doesn't deny it. Qin Xin falls backward, pulling Wang Yi down with him. As he lies on the couch, Qin Xin looks up at Wang Yi with an unrepentant expression. There's not an hint of guilt on his face. Wang Yi, now straddling him, demands an explanation. Qin Xin calmly admits he did all of this just to be with his brother. Wang Yi's temper snaps. Enraged by the response, he tightens his grip on Qin Xin. His frustration boils over as he grabs at Qin Xin's clothes, tugging at his forcefully. Wang Yi then stands up over Qin Xin, whose chest is now exposed from the scuffle. His voice sharp and dangerous. Wang Yi threatens Qin Xin, warning him not to underestimate what he's capable of doing. Qin Xin simply looks up at him with an expressionless face, showing no fear, no regret, only calm silence. Qin Xin looks up at Wang Yi, his chest fully exposed from the earlier scuffle. His smooth skin reflects the light. Wang Yi turns his head, unable to keep looking. Qin Xin is too handsome that it hurts to look at him. His eyes wander back anyway, surveying Qin Xin's body. It's infuriating. Qin Xin's physique is almost too perfect. To make things worse, he has a ridiculously handsome face too. Wang Yi silently curses the fact that girls would probably be obsessed with him. Wang Yi can't help but be jealous. In Chinese, being sour means being envious. Meanwhile, the rest of the people in the room stare in stunned silence. Zhuang Xiang awkwardly starts to excuse himself, but the girl beside him quickly shuts him up, telling him not to interfere. She's a BL lover in the wild. Wang Yi suddenly snaps out of his daze. Realizing he can't let anyone else see Qin Xin like this, he hurriedly buttons up Qin Xin's shirt. Then, without another word, he grabs Qin Xin and pushes him away, telling him coldly that there's no way he'd ever be interested in someone like him. Marching over to the table, Wang Yi picks up his wine glass and throws one last insult at Qin Xin, calling his face disgusting. Without hesitation, he pours the wine over Qin Xin's head, soaking him completely. Qin Xin doesn't retaliate. Droplets of wine clings to his thick eyelashes as he silently watches Wang Yi. Wang Yi internally lets out a breath of relief, thinking that the harsh scene has finally come to an end. But as he looks up again, he mutters internally that it's unfair. Qin Xin somehow still manages to look cool, even drenched in wine. The sight unnerves Wang Yi. He worries that if he keeps staring, it might awaken some very inappropriate feelings. He tells those thoughts to stay locked firmly in the closet. Let them come out of the closet, Wang Yi. Then, to make things worse, Qin Xin licks the wine from his lips and calmly says he's thankful for the lesson. He steps forward and towers over Wang Yi, asking in a low voice if there's anything else he should do. Wang Yi freezes, immediately panicking. He's terrified that Qin Xin might actually enjoy this kind of role play. The others in the lounge decide to quietly take their leave. Wang Yi seizes the moment. Thinking this is the best time to act, he grabs Qin Xin's arm without warning and drags him away. Soon after, a stream of clean water rushes from a faucet, echoing through the quiet of the club's bathroom. Wang Yi sighs, clearly tired and frustrated. He brought Qin Xin here to clean up. He tells him to wash himself properly, snapping that if he stays looking like that, it'll bring shame to their family. Qin Xin blurts out that all of this was Wang Yi's fault to begin with. Wang Yi shoots back, claiming it's because Qin Xin has been acting up and drawing attention. Trying to stay on script, Wang Yi continues with the routine, accusing Qin Xin of being an attention seeker. Before he can say more, a sudden splash of water hits him squarely. Soaked, Wang Yi stands frozen in disbelief. Across from him, Qin Xin holds a glass in his hand and looks up calmly. He fires back that Wang Yi is just as unhappy as he is. Wang Yi is left speechless, stunned by the truth in Qin Xin's words. But Qin Xin breaks eye contact first, lowering his gaze. To Wang Yi's surprise, Qin Xin gently drapes his coat over him. Then, without another word, he uses the coat to pat Wang Yi's hair dry, murmuring an apology as he does. Qin Xin gently continues, telling Wang Yi that he knows Wang Yi is just being coerced. Wang Yi's eyes widened in shock. However, Qin Xin's expression shifts. He admits softly but firmly, he can't stand it anymore. A young Wang Yi sits quietly, surrounded by stuffed animals and reading a book. He seems deeply focused, immersed in his own little world. His parents smile gently, watching him. They ask why he never laughs, explaining that people laugh when they're happy. Their tone is light, but there's an expectation behind their words. Wang Yi blinks, confused. He recalls something he read, that humans are social animals. He doesn't quite grasp the connection between happiness and laughter. The adults lean closer and begin demonstrating exaggerated smiles, encouraging him to copy them. They tell him to give it a try. Wang Yi stares silently, absorbing everything. He doesn't respond, just studies their expressions. In his head, another quote floats to the surface. Not fitting in may lead to social rejection. Slowly, he raises his fingers to the corners of his lips and forces a smile. It's awkward and unnatural, but it's an attempt. He does manage to smile, at least on the outside, but inside, he admits he still doesn't really understand what happiness is supposed to feel like. Now older, Wang Yi screams in frustration, completely overwhelmed. His emotions spiral as he tries to process everything. He can't understand why Qin Xin said he couldn't hold it anymore. The words echo in his mind, sending him into a panic. Recalling what happened after Qin Xin said those words, Qin Xin gently placed a jacket over Wang Yi's head and hugged him close. The action is quiet, but filled with unexpected warmth. Qin Xin murmurs an apology, leaving Wang Yi stunned. Lifting the edge of the jacket, Wang Yi peeks out with wide eyes. His expression is puzzled. His thoughts race. If Qin Xin loses control now, it might turn into something much worse. Just then, S.O. checks in from the side, casually asking if Wang Yi is okay. Wang Yi, now lying upside down in dramatic exhaustion, groans that he is absolutely not okay. Wang Yi glares at S.O. in frustration, questioning the accuracy of the original story he was given. He vents that Qin Xin's behavior is completely different from the version described in the novel. None of it is going the way it's supposed to. S.O., looking a bit uneasy, admits it's been feeling some ominous vibes lately, bad omens in the air. Wang Yi narrows his eyes and sarcastically asks whether Cat's eyelids can even twitch, doubting S.O.'s sense of foreboding. Dragging himself upright, Wang Yi moves sluggishly but with purpose. He's exhausted mentally and physically, but there's something he's determined to get to the bottom of. He declares that they need to uncover the real reason why Qin is acting so out of character. Whatever's happening, it's time to investigate. A wide exterior shot of Imperial High School appears, setting the stage for Wang Yi's next plan. He prepares for his disguise mission by transforming his appearance. He puts on a school uniform, sprays his hair to look more youthful, and covers part of his face with a mask. Cracking a joke, he tells S.O. that maybe he should consider being a spy someday. S.O. shoots back dryly, reminding him not to be poor, it wouldn't suit him. Then, more seriously, S.O. reminds Wang Yi that school is the best place to monitor the male lead and urges him to focus and take the task seriously. Before Wang Yi can respond, S.O. is suddenly attacked by a white cat that appears to be smitten with him. The unexpected encounter leaves S.O. flailing and annoyed. Wang Yi just sighs, utterly exasperated by the chaos surrounding him. As he steps into the school, he reflects solemnly that villains are always lonely. It's part of their role to be on the outside. The school hallways are filled with students going about their day, chatting and walking to class. It's a typical, lively campus scene. Wang Yi hides behind a corner, observing from the shadows. He notes that with his youthful face, he could still pass for a student. No one would suspect a thing. Nearby, two girls talk excitedly about the campus heartthrob. One of them thinks he looked at her, while the other tells her that the heartthrob was looking at Lily. The name piques Wang Yi's interest, and he sneaks into a nearby classroom to find out. The girl named Lily is indeed the supporting actress in this world. Chen Li, aka Lily, cheerfully walks up to Qin and greets him with a bright smile. With a small hopeful smile, Chen Li asks for his opinion on her new hairband, clearly trying to impress him. He responds simply, telling her it looks fine. His tone is polite but detached, showing no particular interest or emotion. Meanwhile, Wang Yi, still in disguise, happens to overhear a few nearby students chatting. They gush about how Qin and Chen Li make a perfect match. The comment hits Wang Yi hard, and he reacts with visible shock and dismay, eyes wide. Wang Yi fumes. He silently complains about Qin getting close to the wrong person. This wasn't supposed to happen, and now it's throwing everything off. Back in the classroom, Chen Li tells Qin that she specifically wore the hairband thinking he would like it. Qin pretends to listen, but his attention is elsewhere. Qin's attention is drawn to the window where Wang Yi has been spying on him. The scene opens inside a gymnasium. Voices begin to echo through the space. Wang Yi turns to two nearby girls and casually asks if Qin and Chen Li are close. He tries to sound nonchalant, though his curiosity is clearly piqued. One of the girls answers without hesitation, saying that since both Qin and Chen Li are good-looking, it makes sense that they're familiar with each other. However, the other girl disagrees. She explains that Qin is known for being cold and aloof, while it's always Chen Li who initiates conversation with him. Wang Yi is caught off guard when the girls start describing Qin's icy personality as charming. A dreamy image of Qin with a gentle smile appears in the girls' imagination, further showing just how much they admire his aloof demeanor. One of them even starts fantasizing about Qin smiling sweetly and saying something affectionate to her. Wang Yi watches with disbelief, thinking they're being a bit too dramatic. The girls ask Wang Yi if he's part of Qin's fan club. He denies it, but the girls do not believe him. Suddenly, the girls gasp and point out that Qin has arrived. Wang Yi follows their gaze. Qin steps onto the basketball court in his uniform, poised and focused. The announcer tells the crowd to quiet down as the game is about to start. Fans erupt in cheers, shouting that Qin is handsome and cheering him on enthusiastically. Wang Yi, caught in the middle of it, feels overwhelmed and just wants to slip away. Before he can sneak off, a hand suddenly grabs his shoulder, stopping him in his tracks. The girls quickly stop him from leaving, insisting that he stay and enjoy the game. They're excited to see the school's most handsome boy in action. Wang Yi sighs inwardly, wondering what's so great about all of this. He reflects quietly to himself. Qin used to be so pitiful, looking up at him. Now everything feels different, too different. Contrary to what most of the crowd might be thinking, Wang Yi isn't all that interested in the basketball game itself. Instead, he starts imagining how sweaty and messy Qin might get while running around the court. The idea oddly amuses him. But then his imagination runs a bit too far. A vivid image pops into his mind, Qin drenched in sweat, looking intense and completely worn out after playing. Wang Yi finds himself startled by how hot the image looks. He quickly tries to shake it off, but can't deny it. Qin's tired, breathless expression actually looks kind of cute to him. Back on the court, Qin leaps into action for a powerful block during a fast-paced play. The girls around Wang Yi scream in support, completely caught up in the excitement. Wang Yi, watching quietly, has to admit that maybe basketball isn't such a bad sport after all. Qin Xin lines up for a shot, his eyes full of determination. The energy radiating from him in that moment is palpable. Wang Yi watches in silence, his expression shifting from detached to unexpectedly captivated. As Qin Xin releases the ball, the scene slows to capture the smooth grace of the motion. A close-up of Wang Yi's eye reflects the arc of the ball. But suddenly, the image of the basketball flying through the air stirs up something dark in Wang Yi's mind. The memory flashes back to an intense pain from his past life. In an instant, Wang Yi is no longer in the gym. He finds himself surrounded by chaos and injured people, a dark and terrifying place overtaking his senses. He looks around, completely disoriented. Panic and confusion set in as he demands to know what just happened. A second later, he's checking on a classmate, kneeling beside someone. His voice calls out in concern, trying to help. Wang Yi cradles an unconscious girl in his arms, shocked and devastated. Her injuries get him hard. Overwhelmed by emotion, Wang Yi blames himself for what happened. Guilt grips him tightly as he holds the girl close, consumed by the weight of his past mistakes. Wang Yi carries the squad leader through the aftermath of the disaster. He speaks softly, reassuring her not to be afraid. As he moves through the wreckage, he spots a fuel tank leaking nearby. His eyes widen as he realizes the danger, and he makes a silent vow to get everyone out before it explodes. He hoists another injured student onto his back, urging them to hold on. He pushes himself forward, believing there are still others who need help. More debris falls around him, but Wang Yi shields his body and presses ahead. The burning heat, the smoke, none of it stops his determination to save as many people as possible. Suddenly, he pauses mid-step, his eyes catching something unexpected. Shock spreads across his face as he takes in the dead body before him. The sight made his knees buckle. Sitting alone among the wreckage, he wonders why he's the only one left alive. Grabbing his head, Wang Yi begins to break down. His grief is too heavy, his disbelief too sharp. Suddenly, a glowing digital screen flashes before him. It scans and labels him as a wicked villain. Wang Yi's stunned expression shows how deeply the words cut. SO materializes before him, its glowing form floating in the dark. It stares at Wang Yi, questioning whether he was the one who caused the tragedy. Wang Yi is speechless, unable to defend himself. A robotic voice continues, accusing him of using a suitcase to protect himself. It claims that Wang Yi caused the accident and never once took the situation seriously. The final blow lands when the voice calls him a murderer. The scoreboard displays the final score, 44-34, with Qin Xin's team taking the win. The crowd begins to stir with excitement. Qin Xin wipes the sweat from his brow, while fans in the stands gush over how handsome he looks even after the game. Two girls nearby express their excitement, smiling happily as they talk about how amazing it was to watch him play. One of the girls notices Wang Yi, who appears dazed and a bit disoriented. She checks on him, asking if he's okay. Wang Yi awkwardly brushes it off, trying to hide how thrown off he is. Meanwhile, Qin Xin dries himself with a towel. A teammate comments on how easily Qin Xin catches a cold and suggests someone help him out. Wang Yi steps in and casually offers a towel to pass along to Qin Xin. The girls are impressed by his thoughtful gesture. As Qin Xin stands with his back turned, someone nervously approaches him. The two girls shyly offer him a towel as a gift, praising him once again for his performance. Qin Xin stays silent for a moment, holding the towel with a conflicted look on his face. A teammate jokes that Qin Xin never accepts gifts and offers to take the towel instead. Unexpectedly, Qin Xin suddenly accepts the towel, surprising everyone around him. The girls are stunned as Qin Xin calmly wipes his face with the towel. Still confused, he glances around and asks who exactly gave it to him. Another teammate teases him for acting weird and searching around so seriously. Qin Xin remembers that he felt something weird in the classroom. His brother complex is tingling. He shakes off the feeling, saying it's nothing important. Then, casually, he adds that he won't be heading back to class just yet. He has something else he needs to do. The scene transitions to a calm view of the school building and sky. Wang Yi is sitting alone in a narrow alleyway, looking downcast. Qin Xin runs by, looking for someone. Qin Xin stops and notices Wang Yi sitting in the alley. Qin Xin asks Wang Yi if he needs help, but Wang Yi tells him to leave. Qin Xin realizes Wang Yi has been following him around all day. Wang Yi reflects that he has no energy to deal with anything and doesn't want to keep up appearances. Qin Xin crouches beside Wang Yi and gently asks if he's upset. Wang Yi gives a sarcastic laugh, avoiding the question. Wang Yi mocks Qin Xin, questioning if he enjoys being treated badly every time they meet. Qin Xin tells Wang Yi that despite everything, he always comes back to him. Qin Xin calls Wang Yi gentle, showing a soft expression. Wang Yi reacts in shock and confusion at Qin Xin's words. Wang Yi recalls painful memories of his cruel actions. Wang Yi shouts in frustration, starting to break down emotionally. He remembers the tragic incident where he lost his friends in the accident. He blames himself for what happened. He did not even cry for them. Wang Yi walks away, hoping that he will get the hate he deserves. He reflects that he doesn't deserve to be treated kindly by anyone. A large entertainment club glows brightly in the night, drawing attention with its vibrant lights. Wang Yi lounges in the club with a drink in hand, reflecting to himself that while Qin Xin has grown up, he still doesn't understand why Qin Xin keeps following him around. A man greets Wang Yi, surprised to see him in such a low mood. Wang Yi casually brushes it off, joking that he's just wondering if there will be any new girls tonight and blaming someone else for dragging him to the club. As he sips his drink, he guesses internally that a new waitress will appear, the heroine he's been waiting for. The system tipped him that Qin Xin is expected to arrive at the club soon, brought there by his classmates. Qin Xin would remain composed as a woman offering her service. He would politely reject her, staying respectful but distant. Not far away, he will overhear Wang Yi shouting at a waitress, scolding her for dirtying his clothes and demanding compensation. Before the situation escalates, Qin Xin will quickly step in and will grab Wang Yi's wrist to protect Shoro. Wang Yi thinks to himself how easy it would be to stage a scene by getting the heroine to spill something on him. He even imagines it happening in his mind, planning to use the spill as an excuse to make her stay while threatening her. As expected by the plot, Qin Xin would show up right on cue and punch Wang Yi to stop him. The plan is simple and foolproof. Back to the present, Zhuang Qiang asks if he wants to order anything else. In a cheery mood, Wang Yi enthusiastically orders a variety of sweet desserts, surprising Zhuang Qiang with how much he loves sweets. One Sharo, the waitress, walks in carrying his order. Wang Yi lights up the sight of her. Seeing her clearly, he confirms she's the heroine and is momentarily captivated by how much she's grown. One Sharo, now 18 years old, happily announces the arrival of the desserts. Around the table, other men flirt with her, asking about her age and background. She remains polite and composed, handling the attention gracefully. One man at the table casually invites Shoro to sit and drink with him, drawing an immediate reaction from Wang Yi, who is visibly shocked. Internally, he scolds the man for acting inappropriately toward her, clearly annoyed. Wang Yi tries to intervene by pointing out that one Shoro is only there to serve drinks, not as a hostess. However, the man brushes it off and insists that she stay anyway. Shoro is pulled closer by the man, and recognition crosses her face. Seeing this, Wang Yi aggressively places his feet on the table. With a smirk, he confronts the man and casually asks if he's thought about business, using the line to redirect attention. Then, in a dramatic twist, Wang Yi boldly declares that he has fallen in love with Shoro. The announcement shocks everyone around the table. Wang Yi maintains his composure, secretly watching how they all react. In his thoughts, Wang Yi mocks the setup as predictable and easy to manage. Zhuang Qiang pushes Shoro to serve him. Wang Yi watches the scene unfold and reminds himself that his real goal is to keep her safe. As she steps forward, a glass of lemonade begins to tip over from her tray. Wang Yi watches with a smug look, relaxed and confident in his plan. Sure enough, the lemonade spills directly onto his pants, just as he expected. However, he ends up stunned in comedic disbelief, his plan unfolding a bit too literally. Xiaoro and the nearby man look surprised by what just happened. The drink spilled over his crotch of all places. Meanwhile, in another corner of the club, Qin Xin sits alone, sipping his drink quietly. He thinks to himself that everything about this party's boring, completely unaware of the drama brewing just a few tables away. The plan wasn't foolproof after all. Wang Yi is stunned as the drink spills right on his lap. Xiaoro and the others are visibly shocked. He sits frozen momentarily while the ice and juice continue soaking through his pants. Embarrassed, Wang Yi freaks out and yells about how unfortunate the spill placement is. The family jewels are freezing. He questions if it was intentional, but Xiaoro quickly apologizes and offers to help dry him off. Flustered, Wang Yi refuses, thinking it's too awkward and worrying about how the male lead might react. Xiaoro bowed politely, offering to fetch the manager and compensate him. Eagerly, Xiaoro also offers to escort him to the store's dryers. Wang Yi is caught off guard by how composed and professional she is. He remembers that Xiaoro was supposed to be flustered and nervous in the original story. Her reaction doesn't match what he expected. Confused, Wang Yi decides he'll need to take more extreme action to steer the plot back on track. He has the urge to grab Xiaoro and loudly demands to see her boss. She's confused and startled by his abrupt behavior. He scolds Xiaoro for making him look foolish and demands compensation. Nearby, Qin Xian is on the phone, casually offering a membership card to a potential customer. He pauses, sensing something strange in the commotion. Xiaoro politely offers to pay for the damages, while Wang Yi angrily refuses the money. Just then, Qin Xian approaches silently, surprising both Xiaoro and Wang Yi. Wang Yi immediately lights up, calling Qin Xian a savior and urging him to help resolve the situation. He tells Qin Xian to mind his own business and to leave them be. A pink bubble reveals how desperately he wants Qin Xian to save the heroine. His balls also need saving. Qin Xian is confused and wonders if Wang Yi is referring to Wen Xiaoro. Frustrated, Wang Yi shouts at Qin Xian and reaches for Wen Xiaoro, declaring that he'll teach her a lesson. Meanwhile, the pink bubble is desperately telling Qin Xian to stop him. Qin Xian grabs Wang Yi's wrist, stopping him. Wang Yi, rather than annoyed, Wang Yi feels pleased and thinks Qin Xian is finally acting like a real hero. Qin Xian keeps a firm grip on his arm as Wen Xiaoro watches in shock. Qin Xian calmly asks what happened while still holding onto Wang Yi. A close-up reveals the lemonade stain on Wang Yi's crotch. Xiaoro nervously explains that she accidentally spilled the drink. She clarifies that it's non-alcoholic and just cold, hoping to calm things down. A brief silence follows as all three stand in awkward tension. Finally, Qin Xian grabs Wang Yi and tells him to come along, leading him out of the situation. Qin Xian grabs Wang Yi's hand and tells him to follow. Wang Yi looks confused while Wen Xiaoro watches them from behind. As Qin Xian pulls him along, Wang Yi demands to know what's going on, accusing Qin Xian of trying to play the hero. Wang Yi is caught off guard when Qin Xian calmly denies it. Qin Xian glances back and explains he just wants to make sure Wang Yi is alright. Wang Yi doesn't know how to respond. Qin Xian then points ahead, warning him that his little birdie is freezing. Wang Yi starts shivering visibly. Frustrated, he yells that he's fine and threatens Qin Xian to stop treating him like this. Wang Yi challenges Qin Xian to hit him if that's what he wants, hoping it'll settle things. But Qin Xian stays quiet. Wang Yi, surprised by the lack of reaction, wonders why Qin Xian isn't angry. Qin Xian suddenly suggests they see who can endure longer without giving in. They glare at each other with tension building. Still unsure what's going on, Wang Yi stares nervously at Qin Xian. Then Qin Xian leans in close, making Wang Yi panic and brace for something unexpected. Qin Xian's expression remains serious, and Wang Yi has no idea what kind of tactic he's trying to use. Wang Yi yells at him to stop, realizing their closeness could cause a huge misunderstanding. He imagines an overly romantic moment and grows even more anxious, flustered by the idea. Their feet move closely together, unaware that the ice and lemonade spilled earlier dripped from his pants to the floor. Suddenly, Qin Xian steps on the ice and slips. Wang Yi looks alarmed and asks what he just stepped on. As Qin Xian starts to fall, he lets go of Wang Yi. Wang Yi wonders if Qin Xian did it to avoid dragging them both down. Qin Xian reaches out mid-fall, warning Wang Yi that there's a cabinet behind him. Wang Yi panics and tries to stop Qin Xian, yelling an alarm to prevent an accident. Qin Xian moves to shield Wang Yi from the impact. Wang Yi silently hopes Qin Xian won't get hurt. There's a loud impact, and blood splatters. Qin Xian's eyes show shock. Both of them end up on the floor. Wen Xiaoro rushes over as Wang Yi cries out in concern. Qin Xian immediately asks if Wang Yi is okay, and Wang Yi, holding his bleeding head, weakly says he's fine. Blood drips down Wang Yi's face as Qin Xian looks at him, clearly worried. Wang Yi stares at the blood on his hand and realizes the injury is worse than he thought. Qin Xian tells Xiaoro to call an ambulance, and she hurries off. Qin Xian carries Wang Yi in his arms and apologizes. Wang Yi remembers how Qin Xian protected him from the fall and realizes he took the hit on purpose. Qin Xian regrets what happened and promises to take him to the hospital. Wang Yi, pale and bloody, weakly responds. He assures Qin Xian that he's fine, though his condition says otherwise. Inside, Wang Yi feels that this is how it should be. The villain was the one who should get hurt. Full of regret, Qin Xian holds Wang Yi tightly, visibly relieved yet still worried, clearly affected by everything that just happened. Wang Yi is the villain in the story, identifying himself as the early antagonist in the novel. The moment that marks his exit from the original plot should be when Qin Xian steps in to protect the heroine, while Wang Yi lay injured on the ground. Their father would accuse Qin Xian of trying to hurt his brother. Qin Xian would take the beating in silence. Furious, their father would demand a full medical checkup for Wang Yi. Later, the evaluation report would reveal Wang Yi's blood type. He would confront Wang Yi's mother and demand to know where the child came from, as his blood type does not match the Wang family. In a rage, he grabs Wang Yi's mother by the collar and tells her and Wang Yi to leave. As the mother breaks down in tears, the father calms down and turns to Qin Xian, praising him and officially naming him the heir of the Wang family. He tells Qin Xian he is now the eldest son. Qin Xian remains expressionless as the father pats his head, his feelings hidden. Back to the present, Qin Xian sits in silence as his father angrily accuses him of deliberately harming his brother. He demands that Wang Yi receive a full medical checkup regardless of his condition. As everyone leaves, Qin Xian sits quietly, deep in thought. Qin Xian looks at his hands, wondering if he should let things happen. Wang Yi allowed himself to be injured so that the plot could still progress. He remembers how Wang Yi weakly said it was all right. Qin Xian trembles. All this happened because he did not follow Wang Yi's instructions. He realizes that everything has only spiraled out of control since then. A blurry memory of Qin Xian shielding Wang Yi during the fall flashes in his mind, confirming that the injury was more serious than it should have been. Suddenly, someone angrily calls Qin Xian's name, which brings him back to the present. He turns toward the voice, confused. Wang Yi's mother is visibly upset, and his calm expression seems to annoy her. She lashes out, accusing him of eliminating Wang Yi to take the Wang family inheritance. As she raises her hand, Qin Xian calmly catches her wrist in mid-swing. He asks if she's mistaken about his intentions, stating clearly that he has no interest in the family's assets. He leans in to remind her about Wang Yi's true identity. The woman reacts with shock and demands to know what he means. Her panic grew as Qin Xian remains silent, his expression stern and unreadable. She nervously tells him not to speak nonsense, clearly terrified that the truth about Wang Yi's origins might come to light. Qin Xian calmly tells the woman that her threats and words mean nothing to him. He adds that if they run too many medical tests on Wang Yi, something that was meant to stay hidden might come to light. The woman nervously laughs and quickly excuses herself, claiming she has something else to do. As she hurries away in a panic, she internally decides to cancel the checkup to prevent any secrets from being uncovered. Qin Xian watches her leave, silently wondering if what he did was truly the right decision. He walks down the hospital hallway, quietly apologizing to Wang Yi in his thoughts. He reflects that even after everything Wang Yi has done, he's still at risk of being pushed out of the family. Qin Xian enters the hospital room and sees Wang Yi sitting up, holding his head in pain. Concerned, Qin Xian asks why he's out of bed. Wang Yi looks up, surprised and confused to see him. Wang Yi then asks if Qin Xian has the wrong person. He doesn't seem to recognize him. Still disoriented, Wang Yi wonders where he is and questions why he's not on the bus with his classmates. His alarm grows as the situation feels more unfamiliar. S.O., the Black Cat system senses that something is very wrong. A wave of dread washes over him as he feels a bad premonition settling in. Wang Yi is confused. He should be on a school field trip with his classmates. Wang Yi questions how he ended up in a hospital. Qin Xian, now more confused, asks what Wang Yi is talking about. Wang Yi clutches his head in pain and begins to wonder if he hit it. As Qin Xian stays silent, Wang Yi tries to piece things together. He wonders if there was an accident during school outing and if he's suffering from amnesia. He figures a head injury might have caused memory loss. Qin Xian calmly explains that Wang Yi collapsed at a nightclub and that he brought him to the hospital. Wang Yi is surprised and thanks Qin Xian, calling him a lifesaver. Still confused about his situation, Wang Yi asks to borrow a phone so he can contact his family. He tries to call his mom but is confused when the call doesn't go through. A message pops up saying the number doesn't exist. Shocked, Wang Yi questions why his mom's number is invalid. He decides to try calling his dad next. Qin Xian watches quietly as Wang Yi dials again. Wang Yi grows more anxious. When the call connects, he nervously greets the person on the other end as his dad. After a brief silence, Wang Yi responds awkwardly, surprised by what he hears. Wang Yi tells Qin Xian that it was a wrong number and begins to ask for help. Nervously, he asks if he can stay at Qin Xian's place for a while. Qin Xian looks confused, unsure of what Wang Yi is talking about. Laughing awkwardly, Wang Yi says something surprising. He believes he might have transmigrated. Qin Xian is stunned that Wang Yi would come to such a conclusion on his own. Wang Yi confidently explains that this feels just like a time travel scenario from a TV show, and it's the only explanation that makes sense. While Qin Shiyan silently suspects it's just memory loss, he decides to play along for now. Smiling, he agrees to trust Wang Yi's version of events and calls it a blessing in disguise. Wang Yi, relieved, thanks him for letting him stay and says he'll find a way to repay him once he's better. As Qin Shiyan watches him, he notices how much softer and more relaxed Wang Yi has become since the memory loss. Wang Yi seems sincere and at ease. Qin Shiyan acknowledges the situation with a small smile, realizing that Wang Yi has forgotten his mission and is no longer acting. Putting an arm around Wang Yi, Qin Shiyan tells him he wants to ask something. With a giddy smile, Qin Shiyan is glad that things are about to go in the direction he wanted. He quietly arranges things so the Wang couple remains occupied and too busy to visit the hospital. Meanwhile, a view of Qin Shiyan's quiet, minimalist rented home is shown as the front door opens with someone arriving. Wang Yi steps inside and immediately comments on the decor, jokingly asking if it reflects some kind of commitment to abstinence. He then teasingly asks why someone as attractive as Qin Shiyan doesn't have a girlfriend. Qin Shiyan simply replies that he doesn't, offering no further explanation. Smiling slightly, Qin Shiyan says that's exactly why he brought Wang Yi back with him. Internally, though, his tone shifts as he darkly declares that now it's his turn to keep Wang Yi close, this time on his terms. Qin Shiyan smiles now that he has Wang Yi. Wang Yi happily thanks him for letting him stay, and Qin Shiyan responds humbly. Then, reaching into a cabinet, Qin Shiyan says he needs Wang Yi's help with something. Wang Yi looks curious and asks what kind of help he means. To his shock, Qin Shiyan pulls out a blonde wig. It was the magical wig Wang Yi used for the heroine's cosplay. Wang Yi panics, asking what Qin Shiyan wants him to do. Qin Shiyan awkwardly brings up he calls Wang Yi Ji, and explains that his brother had worn the wig before. He admits that seeing his brother cross-dressing affected him. Wang Yi is completely flustered and unsure how to respond. He asks in disbelief if Qin Shiyan has feelings for his Guga, but Qin Shiyan quickly denies it. Qin Shiyan explains that those feelings only came after seeing Wang Yi dressed like a girl. Wang Yi grows more concerned. Qin Shiyan knows that even with Wang Yi's condition, the story must progress. Otherwise, Wang Yi would be punished if he starts treating the male lead well. Qin Shiyan tries to ease the tension by saying Wang Yi just looks like his brother, so it should be okay. Wang Yi, still confused, hesitantly asks if Qin Shiyan wants him to dress up as a woman just for fun. Qin Shiyan calmly reminds him of his promise to repay him and hands him the outfit. Wang Yi silently judges Qin Shiyan's unusual attraction to men and women's clothing, but decides to keep his thoughts to himself. Qin Shiyan reassures him not to worry, promising he won't cross any lines. Wang Yi admits he has a strange feeling about the situation and doubts whether he can meet expectations, but agrees to try anyway. Wearing the wig, Wang Yi strikes a confident pose and asks for Qin Shiyan's opinion. Qin Shiyan stares in awe, clearly stunned. Feeling proud, Wang Yi even offers to let him touch, which makes Qin Shiyan blush. Wang Yi asks if it was just the wig that helped, feeling happy to assist. Qin Shiyan thinks to himself that this is the real Yi and finds him adorable. Wang Yi casually asks if there's anything else he needs. Hesitating, Qin Shiyan requests him to change his pants. Wang Yi looks confused but begins undressing, showing his slender legs as he changes. Now sitting on the couch in a skirt, Wang Yi reflects on how unfamiliar the outfit feels. Qin Shiyan quietly agrees that it suits him. Kneeling in front of Wang Yi, Qin Shiyan compliments his appearance and gently touches Wang Yi's foot, startling him. Qin Shiyan holds Wang Yi's legs and reassures him not to be afraid. Wang Yi warns him not to take things too far. Qin Shiyan grips Wang Yi's foot firmly, looking focused. He stares up intensely and tells Wang Yi to step on him, as if testing a reaction. Meanwhile, S.O. angrily complains about being distracted and reminds himself that they still need to find Wang Yi. Wang Yi is shocked and nervous as Qin Shiyan gently holds his leg. With a calm but intense expression, Qin Shiyan urges Wang Yi to step on him, making the moment awkward. Wang Yi reacts in disbelief, asking if he means it. Qin Shiyan admits it's his secret and tells Wang Yi not to tell anyone. He confirms again that he truly wants to be stepped on. Smiling, Qin Shiyan asks how it feels and starts to confess that he's a pervert with a strange preference. He finishes his confession, openly saying he's into his brother, and acknowledges how disturbing it sounds. Wang Yi is stunned and speechless, unsure how to respond. Internally, he thinks it's surprising that even someone as handsome and popular as Qin Shiyan has such odd secrets. He tries to stay calm and process it rationally. He suddenly questions himself on how he knew that Qin Xian is popular at school. Wang Yi says he wants to help but would rather not use violence. Qin Xian asks him why. Wang Yi tells him that his perception of things are different from normal people, hinting on something sinister. Wang Yi recalls a childhood memory of discovering a dead cat. While others felt sad, she had been more interested in watching her friends' emotional reactions. He admits that, instead of feeling grief, her focus had been on analyzing how others behaved. Qin Xian listens quietly, appearing thoughtful and slightly surprised. Wang Yi continues, explaining that as he grew up, became more aware of these tendencies, but some still linger. He adds that he wants to act normal and avoid being too intense. Qin Xian silently notes to himself that Wang Yi did show signs of having sadistic tendencies. Qin Xian stands up and tells Wang Yi not to force herself, thinking to himself that he doesn't enjoy that kind of hobby either. He gently touches Wang Yi's face and pulls him into a warm embrace, saying he just wants to hold him for a bit. Wang Yi is surprised, realizing it's the first time he's been hugged like this by a man. The experience feels unusual and a little strange. Qin Xian hugs her tightly. Wang Yi reflects on how rare it is for his brother to respond to her affection. She wonders how things might be different if they weren't bound by their current situation. The next morning, Qin Xian and Wang Yi casually brush their teeth side by side. As Qin Xian gets ready to leave for school, Wang Yi reminds him to buy dinner. He replies with a simple okay as he heads out the door. On the way, Qin Xian wonders if they could keep living like this and stay happy forever. The scene shifts to the classroom, where the teacher announces the arrival of a new student. A blonde girl, Wen Xiaoro, enters and introduces herself, asking her classmates for their support. The teacher then looks around the room to find her a seat. The teacher tells Wen Xiaoro to sit beside Qin Xian. As she heads to her seat, the class murmurs, with some girls gossiping and one envying her luck. Xiaoro pulls out the chair next to Qin Xian and greets him cheerfully, acknowledging that they've met again. She thanks him for keeping her part-time job a secret. Qin Xian gives a short reply, and Xiaoro seems a bit awkward. They both sit in silence, Xiaoro looking nervous, Qin Xian appearing uninterested. Breaking the silence, Xiaoro asks about Wang Yi and expresses concern for his condition. Qin Xian is caught off guard by the question. Xiaoro mentions that Wang Yi looks seriously hurt and says she'd like to visit him. Qin Xian listens in silence, but his mood visibly shifts. He then firmly refuses her suggestion, his expression turning serious and cold. Wang Yi sits silently with his arms crossed, looking concerned. The cat appears angry and glows with energy. It scolds Wang Yi for messing up the mission and losing his memory. Wang Yi pleads with not to be so harsh, asking if having a talking cat is even normal in this story. He slowly realizes that he hasn't transmigrated but is completing tasks inside a novel world. Explains that Wang Yi was supposed to follow the original plot, which included a medical discovery revealing his mismatched blood type. That was meant to trigger conflict and get him kicked out of the house. In the original storyline, Wang Yi would have been driven away after the truth about his identity came out. But things went off track, he never got exposed and ended up living with the male lead instead. Wang Yi realizes that if he doesn't complete the mission correctly, he can't move on to the next world. Confirms that's true. The system summarizes Wang Yi's original role as a villain. He was never meant to return after the main couple reunited. Adds that completing all assigned tasks is the only way to escape painlessly. If he fails, moving to the next world will result in death. Wang Yi asks for time to process all of this, and calmly agrees. Feeling overwhelmed, Wang Yi struggles to understand how things escalated so quickly. He remembers that Qin Xian once confessed feelings toward his brother, while Wang Yi was in disguise. A memory of Qin Xian's flustered reaction to the disguised Wang Yi resurfaces in his mind. Wang Yi is horrified as he recalls what Qin Xian once said, his face full of shock. Just then, the door makes a sound. Someone is entering. Both Wang Yi and turn toward it in surprise. Qin Xian walks in with a serious look on his face. Trying to stay calm, Wang Yi nervously greets him and introduces as just a helpless cat. Plays along, pretending to be innocent. Qin Xian silently observes them while Wang Yi keeps up the act, internally panicking about whether his lie is believable. Qin Xian stares directly at Wang Yi, causing him to sweat under the pressure. Wang Yi wonders what Qin Xian might be thinking. Then Qin Xian calmly tells him that if he wants to complete the mission and leave, he'll need to follow specific steps. To Wang Yi's shock, Qin Xian offers to help him with the mission. Both Wang Yi and react with wide-eyed disbelief. They scramble to understand what Qin Xian means and whether this is a new kind of alliance. Qin Xian clarifies that he isn't his brother and that he isn't a threat. He tries to put Wang Yi at ease. Then he reveals a startling truth: he can read people's thoughts. Wang Yi and S.O. are both stunned by the confession. Pointing to his head, Qin Xian tells them that he knows Wang Yi is eager to complete the mission. Qin Xian questions if the entire setup exists just to make the story more interesting. S.O. is startled by how accurate his guess is, confirming Qin Xian's suspicion. S.O. admits it's true and is surprised he figured it out so easily. Qin Xian replies that he already knows. He then says things aren't progressing properly and begins to explain why. Qin Xian admits he has no interest in the female lead, which leaves S.O. in shock. S.O. panics, completely thrown off by Qin Xian's unexpected lack of desire, which doesn't match the original storyline. Qin Xian calmly explains to Wang Yi that his preference lies in men dressed as women, something he had already confessed to Wang Yi before. He adds that even if he forces interactions with the heroine, the emotional effect the story needs just won't happen. Wang Yi grows flustered and looks away, unsure how to respond. S.O., now in full panic mode, worries the mission is going off track and pleads with Wang Yi not to give up. Overwhelmed, Wang Yi says he doesn't know who to trust anymore and wonders if he's losing his mind. Qin Xian reassures him with a calm voice, telling him he's not crazy. Wang Yi is shocked and confused by Qin Xian's bold statement. Qin Xian adds that he can even recite all of Wang Yi's thoughts, which stuns him further. S.O., now fully convinced, asks Qin Xian what kind of help he meant earlier. Qin Xian then suggests that Wang Yi could act as the heroine using a wig. He even imagines Wang Yi in women's clothing and remarks that it might help trigger the necessary plot development. Qin Xian says he'll take care of the family situation by revealing that Wang Yi isn't a biological son, but only after the plot is complete. Wang Yi is left speechless, overwhelmed by everything that's happening. He questions Qin Xian's motives, saying they're not close enough for him to go this far. Qin Xian responds by pointing out that Wang Yi used to be awful, suggesting that maybe he just wants to see a different side of him. Qin Xian adds that he wants to see Wang Yi's true gentleness, a part of him that's rarely shown. Wang Yi looks awkward and doesn't say anything in response. Qin Xian quickly admits he didn't mean to say that out loud and seems a bit embarrassed. Qin Xian remembers when Xiaoro asked to visit Wang Yi, who looked badly hurt. Qin Xian bluntly denied her request. It was a knee-jerk reaction. This is the only way to have Wang Yi all to himself. Wang Yi believes that there's a way out, but he stays silent, clearly unsure. S.O. pressures him to agree to Qin Xian's proposal for the sake of gaining more mission points, but Wang Yi finds S.O. annoying and unhelpful. Frustrated, Wang Yi yells, confused about his situation and unsure what the points even mean anymore. S.O. reminds him that he must have been pretty desperate to agree to such a strange mission in the first place. When S.O. asks if he needs to remind him what the punishment is again, Wang Yi looks quietly irritated. Just then, Qin Xian invites Wang Yi to eat. Caught off guard, Wang Yi doesn't argue and sits down with him. He's surprised that Qin Xian is suddenly acting so casual and even calling him Ge. Qin Xian says he likes calling him that, which shocks Wang Yi. He accuses Qin Xian of reading his mind again. Qin Xian only smirks, teasing that Wang Yi's reactions are fun to watch. While eating, Wang Yi grumbles that mind-reading during meals feels way too convenient. Qin Xian watches him silently and casually mentions that Wang Yi has always been a little odd. Qin Xian suddenly recalls a memory of his mother harshly rejecting him for reading minds, a bitter moment that left a mark. Offended by Qin Xian calling him odd, Wang Yi insists that he's not a pervert and does not need to be called out by someone who likes cross-dressing men. Qin Xian is not really into cross-dressing, but he kept it to himself. Smirking to himself, Qin Xian thinks they're perfect for each other. Wang Yi shivers and awkwardly suggests Qin Xian stop liking his brother and find someone else instead. Qin Xian asks Wang Yi if he hates the idea, and Wang Yi admits that he doesn't exactly hate it, but probably doesn't like it either. Internally, Qin Xian reminds himself not to fall in love, but he still smiles softly and says that's enough for him. Qin Xian reflects on a nightmare he once had where Wang Yi constantly cursed him and decides that this situation, strange as it is better by comparison. Eventually, Wang Yi reluctantly agrees to wear women's clothing for the sake of the mission. S.O. reminds him to stay focused on the task. The scene shifts to the school. Wang Yi appears disguised in a girl's school uniform and wig, getting ready for his role. Qin Xian sees him in disguise while S.O. observes silently. Wang Yi panics and complains about how ridiculous he looks in public. So reassures him that to others, he looks like Wen Xiaoro and encourages him to commit to the role. So then explains the next plot point. Wen Xiaoro is bullied and ends up being pushed by Qin Li into the pool, with Qin Xian witnessing the event. The mission is meant to lead to a warm follow-up scene where Qin Xian helps the soaked Wen Xiaoro. When asked if he understands the mission, Wang Yi confidently says acting is his specialty. So excitedly sends him off. As Wang Yi walks toward a group of students, he quickly draws attention. Qin Li angrily approaches Wen Xiaoro. She demands an apology, accusing him of bumping into her. Wang Yi, dressed as Xiaoro, denies it, but Qin Li becomes more aggressive, accusing him of making excuses. She threatens him and warns him to stay away from Qin Xian. Other girls join in, mocking Xiaoro's appearance. Calmly, Wang Yi responds by asking Qin Li how exactly he can calm her down. She's visibly caught off guard by his boldness. Wang Yi confidently asks Qin Li how he can help calm her down, catching her off guard. She stammers in surprise, clearly not expecting his boldness. Flustered, Qin Li yells that she's not the one who should be questioned and charges at him. She shouts that she's going to teach him a lesson and tries to push him, but her hand lands softly on his chest, barely making an impact. Everyone nearby looks confused as Qin Li struggles to shove Wang Yi. Realizing it's time for the scripted pool scene, Wang Yi prepares himself. Qin Li makes another attempt, straining and looking embarrassed. Wang Yi internally wonders if such a weak push will be enough to fake a fall for the scene. Frustrated and blushing, Qin Li mutters a curse under her breath. Wang Yi calmly tells her to push with all her strength. Qin Li is confused, stammering in response, clearly flustered by his unexpected confidence. As he looks at her, Wang Yi is surprised to find her suddenly attractive. Qin Li yells in frustration, refusing to push him any further. Wang Yi encourages her to go ahead and vent. She tries to pull away, calling him a hooligan, but Wang Yi sees the perfect moment to act. Wang Yi dramatically falls backward into the pool as the others watch the scene unfold. He lands with a wince but completes the scripted moment. Qin Li, flustered, nervously explains that Wang Yi told her to push him, trying to shift the blame. Without waiting for a reaction, she and the other girls quickly ran off to avoid more trouble. Qin Xian arrives and silently observes Wang Yi in the water. With a cool comment, he notes the situation while Wang Yi, still soaked, internally complains about his subpar acting. Feeling awkward, Wang Yi addresses Qin Xian formally, unsure of his reaction. Qin Xian replies neutrally, but internally notes how handy mind reading can be. Offering a hand, Qin Xian asks if Wang Yi was bullied and whether he's hurt. Wang Yi is surprised by the gentle tone, finding it unexpectedly flirtatious for someone usually so aloof. As Wang Yi shivers and wrings out his clothes, Qin Xian silently watches. Wang Yi exhales, still cold. Qin Xian blushes inwardly, trying to ignore the awkwardness of seeing a man in women's undergarments. He then tells Wang Yi that his house is nearby, subtly offering him a place to warm up. Qin Xian suggests that Wang Yi should change his clothes, catching Wang Yi off guard. Surprised, Wang Yi shyly asks if it's okay, joking to himself that maybe Qin Xian is just pretending to be calm. Qin Xian assures him it's fine, while Wang Yi begins to wonder if Qin Xian can read his thoughts. Qin Xian brings Wang Yi to his house, and the two enter together. Once inside, Qin Xian tells him he can use the hot water to shower. Wang Yi, holding a towel, thanks him cheerfully. As Wang Yi enters the bathroom, Qin Xian shuts the door behind him in silence. Feeling optimistic, Wang Yi cheers up and mentally prepares for the next scene. As he starts undressing, he grumbles that the setup feels a bit outdated, then reassures himself that being shirtless is fine since they're both men. Just then, Qin Xian unexpectedly walks in and catches him mid-change. Wang Yi nervously laughs and tries to explain himself, but Qin Xian remains unimpressed and silent for a moment. In shock, Wang Yi asks him what he's doing. Wang Yi panics and tries to cover himself, looking like an unsullied maiden. Qin Xian gestures for him to stay quiet. In the other room, So is peacefully asleep, completely unaware of the situation. Qin Xian smirks and tells Wang Yi to go on, clearly enjoying the moment. Wang Yi stands frozen in place, feeling utterly defeated and exposed under Qin Xian's amused gaze. Qin Xian smirks and casually tells Wang Yi to continue, his teasing expression making things even more awkward. Drawn dramatically, Wang Yi feels completely overwhelmed and freezes in disbelief. Flustered and angry, Wang Yi yells that everything is off script, while Qin Xian stays calm. Getting closer, Qin Xian whispers that Wang Yi doesn't know what to do, catching him off guard. He adds that it's not about following the plot, but about making it more fun, smiling mischievously. He calls the scene a lucky coincidence and even praises the view, leaving Wang Yi shocked. Internally, Wang Yi agrees that the story has gone completely off track despite following SO's original plan. Suddenly, the door slams in Qin Xian's face as Wang Yi shuts him out. Qin Xian reflects that Wang Yi won't be fooled easily and considers taking things more slowly. The shower faucet is turned on, and water begins to flow. Qin Xian thinks to himself that Wang Yi usually gives in after being asked twice. He also recalls someone once said Wang Yi resembled a certain person, suggesting his plan might still work, though he knows that giving in too much often invites others to cross the line. Wang Yi showers quietly, deep in thought, wondering if he should go along with something more extreme. Meanwhile, Qin Xian narrows his eyes, mentally testing how far Wang Yi is willing to go. A back view of Wang Yi under the running water is shown in silence, highlighting his inner conflict. So, the cat continues sleeping peacefully, as narration suggests Qin Xian is loosening his self-restraint. Suddenly, Qin Xian smacks SO off the bed in frustration, startling the cat awake. SO is completely confused, even more so when he sees Qin Xian making the bed with unusual care. Wang Yi peeks out from the room and notices a new mission prompt. They must sleep in the same bed. Here's how the mission is supposed to go. As rain pours outside, Qin Xian casually suggests that Xiaoro stay the night. The sound of thunder would make the original Xiaoro run towards Qin Xian and would lead them to sleep in the same bed together. The narration explains that this moment mirrors the original plot, which is meant to bring the two characters closer. Wang Yi finds the plot review easy and thinks the task seems simple enough to complete. But as he watches Qin Xian closely, he starts sensing something isn't quite right. SO observes them and is pleased with how smoothly things are going, even thinking he should have used this strategy earlier. The system notifies the SO that it will no longer interfere, leaving them with a final wish of good luck. Wang Yi braces himself for his performance. On cue, when the thunder claps, he throws himself at Qin Xian, pretending to be scared, determined to complete the task exactly as scripted. Qin Xian holds Wang Yi close, asking gently if he's okay. Wang Yi clings to him and cries out, still playing the part. Qin Xian checks if the thunder is scaring him, and Wang Yi hides his face in Qin Xian's chest without saying a word, confirming it silently. Wang Yi holds on tighter, saying the thunder is frightening. He continues to act vulnerable, pressing into Qin Xian for comfort. A loud clap of thunder suddenly echoed through the room, making them both jump. In reaction, Wang Yi throws himself on Qin Xian. They end up lying down together in an awkward tangle. Qin Xian quickly realizes how close they are and starts to panic. Wang Yi, now on top of him, adds to the tension. Qin Xian tells him to calm down, trying not to lose control. Wang Yi apologizes, saying he can't help being scared. Internally, he wonders if girls are really scared of thunder. The girls he knows are a lot braver than normal girls. Qin Xian doesn't know whether to scold him or just be embarrassed by the situation. He's overwhelmed. Qin Xian offers to sleep together with Xiaoro if she's so afraid. Happy to follow the plot, Wang Yi agrees. As they lie on the bed together, Qin Xian blushes and mentally notes how he's on the verge of losing control. Qin Xian tells Wang Yi that if he's scared, he can sleep beside him. Wang Yi happily agrees. He thanks Qin Xian shyly while getting up, secretly pleased that he's completed the mission objective. As Qin Xian lies down, flustered and red-faced, Wang Yi glances over at him, startled by his expression. A sudden wave of emotion hits Wang Yi, and he feels his heart racing. He starts to wonder what's going on with Qin Xian. His expression seems almost painful. Wang Yi notices the deep blush on Qin Xian's face and starts to get suspicious. He keeps staring, fixating on how flushed Qin Xian looks. Feeling sadistic, Wang Yi is suddenly tempted to torment him a bit more. Meanwhile, Qin Xian admits to himself that Wang Yi is acting exactly like he said he would. Wang Yi, curious about Qin Xian's reaction, grabs the blanket and covers them both. Qin Xian observes that Wang Yi enjoys the look of torment on others. They lie quietly together in bed, both catching their breath. Wang Yi starts to panic internally, telling himself to stay calm. Qin Xian silently stares, thinking that something feels different this time. With a smirk, Qin Xian promises himself that he won't let Wang Yi slip away again. Qin Xian gently tells Wang Yi that if he's still scared, he can bite him. Wang Yi is startled by the offer and looks confused. He repeats the word bite in disbelief, unsure of how to respond. Qin Xian, with a teasing tone, warns him not to bite too hard or he'll react dramatically. Wang Yi stays frozen, completely flustered. Qin Xian pushes it further, joking that he might even cry if it hurts. Wang Yi stares at him, shocked. Internally, he panics, worried that biting might awaken something weird in him. He starts to overthink, recalling a childhood memory where he was judged for being emotionally cold, but secretly enjoying others' sadness. He remembers being called strange. Wang Yi tries to fight the thought off, mentally shouting that he can't become a pervert. The thunder rumbles outside as the atmosphere under the blanket grows heavy. Despite his resistance, Wang Yi ends up biting Qin Xian. Qin Xian groans, and the moment turns unexpectedly intense. Breathing nervously, Wang Yi clutches the blanket, visibly shaken. Qin Xian chuckles and teases him for overthinking. Flustered, Wang Yi hides his face against Qin Xian's chest. He breathes heavily, visibly frustrated and trying to stay composed. Flashes of Qin Xian from the past appear, sweaty and worn out after a basketball game, and then dressed sharply but teary-eyed, trying and failing to conceal his emotions. In a flashback, a younger Qin Xian looks up with teary eyes, asking his brother if his expression is pitiful enough. Wang Yi suddenly realizes something. Qin Xian had seen through him all along. His eyes widen as it sinks in. The scene shifts to the present. Wang Yi suddenly bowed and loudly apologizes, startling Qin Xian. Wang Yi admits he was wrong and apologizes again, while Qin Xian looks confused by the outburst. Wang Yi asks if Qin Xian remembers anything, and Qin Xian says he hasn't fully regained his memories, especially about the time travel. Wang Yi, recalling how mean he used to be, tells Qin Xian to hit him if it would help. Qin Xian stays quiet, thinking it over. Then, he calmly says there's no need to apologize, reminding Wang Yi that most of the bullying came from the missions, and sometimes, he even asked for it. But Wang Yi insists that biting Qin Xian the night before was still wrong and feels guilty about it. Wang Yi panics, worrying he might lose control and turn into a scumbag. Qin Xian reassures him, saying someone who worries that much about becoming a bad person probably won't be one. He asks if Wang Yi fears hurting others. Wang Yi confirms, explaining that he's doing better now. He adds that, as a child, he couldn't even smile properly. A flashback shows young Wang Yi standing silently in yellow overalls, expression blank. Qin Xian silently watches him and thinks the young Wang Yi looks kind of cute. Qin Xian let out a sigh, his bite mark exposed. With a more serious expression, Qin Xian narrows his eyes and says he has a suggestion. A dramatic fantasy scene plays in Wang Yi's mind where he dominates Qin Xian, declaring that to make up for the past, Qin Xian must now suffer. The fantasy continues with Wang Yi being collared, symbolizing a reversal in control. It is now Qin Xian's turn to bully Wang Yi. Qin Xian leans in close and says he'll be the one to bully Wang Yi from now on. Wang Yi looks surprised and flustered. Unsure, Wang Yi asks what kind of bullying he will be subjected to. Qin Xian asks if Wang Yi could take the punishment to suppress his sadistic instinct. Wang Yi considers the questions. After a beat, he agrees with the condition that the bullying does not go too far. Qin Xian gets off the bed, telling Wang Yi that although it is worth a try, they could start with controlling Wang Yi's action to curb his sadistic tendencies. He promises not to hurt him physically. Qin Xian puts on a shirt and turns to Wang Yi to face him. With his mind-reading capability, he could stop Wang Yi before he acts violently. However, it is not enough. Whenever Wang Yi acts out, Qin Xian should punish him so that his body will remember that such thoughts are not allowed. Qin Xian tells him that this method is unorthodox, but he is positive that it will help. Wang Yi kneels on the bed while looking up at him hopeful, eager to cure himself. Qin Xian tells him that there is a condition. Coyly extending a finger toward Wang Yi's throat, he tells him that he demands absolute obedience from him. Wang Yi chuckles at the absurdity of the request. The condition would mean that he would be under Qin Xian's mercy. Qin Xian assures him that they will only do what is comfortable for both parties, and that he could back out at any time. Wang Yi bowed down to think it over. Qin Xian wonders if he's being too impatient and tells Wang Yi to forget that he even suggested such a thing. Wang Yi hesitates. As Qin Xian turns his back to him, Wang Yi agrees. Wang Yi is worried that his sadistic tendency might someday spiral out of control. If there is a chance to get it under control, he would take it. Qin Xian agrees to the deal and notes to himself that Wang Yi has deep trauma about hurting others. Wang Yi silently grips his hands, still anxious, but resolute. Wang Yi gently tugs Qin Xian's sleeve and softly calls his name. He thanks him for all his help and says he's willing to repay him in any way he can. Shin Xian asks if he can truly ask for what he wants. Wang Yi replies that he can as long as it's something he's capable of doing. Shin Xian, serious and emotional, thinks to himself that what he wants is for Wang Yi to stay in this world forever. Just as Wang Yi begins to respond, they're suddenly interrupted by a loud alert from SO. The cat crashes in, panicking and shouting Wang Yi's name. Both boys look stunned and confused by the unexpected interruption. SO announces that there's a major problem. Wang Yi immediately panics, worried that SO found out he bit Shin Xian the night before. He scrambles to defend himself and promises not to go off script again. SO urgently tells Wang Yi to check the screen. The two glance over and are surprised to see that their mission points from the previous night have doubled. Both Shin Xian and Wang Yi stare at the screen in shock as SO excitedly celebrates the unexpected bonus. Wang Yi panics about the sudden increase in points while Shin Xian quietly observes, realizing he can also see the mission screen. SO asks casually if anything special happened the night before. Wang Yi, confused, asks what special is supposed to mean. Shin Xian stays silent, wearing a suspicious expression. A chibi-style flashback briefly shows Wang Yi on top of Shin Xian under the blanket, hinting at a too-close moment. Embarrassed, Wang Yi quickly denies anything unusual happened. Internally, though, he admits he might have crossed a line. Trying to make sense of it, Wang Yi asks SO why they earned so many points despite nothing major happening. SO explains that more emotionally exciting or intense scenes earn more points and sudden point surges are rare. Wang Yi realizes this could be a kind of cheat code, but decides to ignore that route. SO praises Wang Yi's performance and adds that the next world will be harder. Wang Yi groans in frustration while Shin Xian picks SO up by the scruff, clearly not happy. Shin Xian repeats So's name curiously and asks what the next mission will be. SO begins scanning for the new task while Shin Xian looks intrigued and Wang Yi watches with a mix of reluctance and anticipation. SO announces it's about to reveal the next mission. A new mission titled The Cold Cool Guy at School Has a Crush on Me begins. The heroine's daily life is full of hardship. Two boys approach and mockingly invite her to join them, clearly trying to harass her. She looks irritated but doesn't respond. The hero, Shin Xian, steps in and tells the boys to leave. From behind him, the female lead gives a subtle thumbs up, clearly impressed. Later, she tends to his injuries, admiring how even his wounds make him look more charming. Shin Xian, however, looks annoyed and unimpressed by the situation. The girl is later bullied by a group of girls and locked in a dark room. As they mock her and walk away, Shin Xian unexpectedly appears in the room. She's surprised, but he calmly reveals he stayed there on purpose to wait for her. They sit together, and she leans on him for warmth. Grateful for his coat, she suggests they share body heat. Shin Xian looks uncomfortable but doesn't say anything, and the girl thinks he's cute for enduring the cold. Soon, there will be an elevator scene, which should trigger Shin Xian's childhood trauma. This scene will show the hero's vulnerability and the heroine will have the chance to comfort him. This should earn them a lot of points. Meanwhile, Wang Yi is not just following the script. He wants to take responsibility for Shin Xian's trauma as he was the cause of it to begin with. Wang Yi's sadistic mind acts up liking the show of torment on Shin Xian's face, giving it a perfect score. Later, a new conflict unfolds when Chen Li pushes Xiaoru down the stairs. Shin Xian manages to catch her just in time. He asks if she's hurt even when he took most of the impact. Wang Yi can't help but commend his acting skills, prompting him to do a better job. Shin Xian says he's fine, but the girl asks again to make sure. She insists on helping and sits close beside him on the floor to check his injury. Later in the infirmary, she prepares to treat the wound and apologizes while applying medicine to his reddened back. Shin Xian remains quiet as he listens to Wang Yi's erratic heartbeat. Wang Yi gently applies medicine to Shin Xian's injured back. The room is quiet, filled with unspoken tension. Shin Xian flinches slightly at the touch, and Wang Yi tries to keep his hands steady, though flustered. He reminds himself not to get excited and that he's just there to apply ointment. Wang Yi continues to apply the medicine, but he can't help the blush on his face. When he applies pressure, Shin Xian flinches in pain, and Wang Yi looks flustered, clearly liking what's happening. Suddenly, Shin Xian turns to look at her silently. Wang Yi freezes, realizing he may have gone too far. Shin Xian leans in closer, and Wang Yi panics, quickly trying to explain that touching his bruise was purely an accident. Before he can say more, Shin Xian suddenly pushes him down onto the bed, catching him completely off guard. Looking serious, Shin Xian asks if Wang Yi remembers something important from before. Wang Yi does. He recalls their earlier agreement, where he promised Qin Xian that if Wang Yi bullies him, then Qin Xian can bully him back. Qin Xian smiles, clearly pleased that Wang Yi hasn't forgotten. With a teasing glint in his eye, he commands Wang Yi to kiss him as part of that deal. In a sudden comedic cutaway to a small theater scene, Wang Yi yells that Qin Xian is a pervert, but others humorously point out that Wang Yi is just as bad, since he's an adult too. Qin Xian tells Wang Yi to kiss him, leaving Wang Yi stunned. Flustered, Wang Yi questions whether he has to go through with it. Qin Xian confirms and teasingly calls it punishment, casually playing with Wang Yi's hair. Panicked, Wang Yi insists that the situation is inappropriate, and his internal narration agrees it's too much. He quickly reminds himself of their roles and is surprised by how serious Qin Xian is being. Qin Xian asks if he's backing out. Determined, Wang Yi refuses to give in and tells himself to fulfill the contract. Qin Xian urges him to go on, while Wang Yi stammers, hesitating as Qin Xian leans closer. A chibi version of Qin Xian appears, sarcastically mocking Wang Yi's sense of integrity. Trying to calm himself, Wang Yi thinks of it as just earning mission points, but the thought that it's his first kiss makes him pause. Qin Xian is taken aback to hear that and looks at Wang Yi in silence. He kisses Wang Yi but quickly covers his mouth, confusing Wang Yi. She wonders what he's doing. Looking serious, Qin Xian tells her to keep going, saying the punishment isn't over. Then he stops and gently explains that they're not a real couple. His first kiss should be saved for someone who truly matters. He's surprised by his unexpected sensitivity and realizes he's not as forward as he pretends to be. Despite his words, she finds herself tempted to tease him more. Since it was his idea to begin with, she decides she'll play along. Wang Yi surprises Qin Xian with a sudden kiss, leaving him startled. Embarrassed, she quickly covers her face and reflects on how skilled he seemed. Wang Yi wonders how his kiss didn't feel like a first, while Qin Xian remains composed and confident. Gently holding her face, he asks if Wang Yi's ever been in a relationship. Flustered and caught off guard, he looks up at him, and the tension between them deepens. Wang Yi, still red-faced, admits he's never been in a relationship. He nervously wonders if falling for a girl would count as cheating. A flashback shows a classmate teasing him and calling him a scumbag for being emotionally unavailable, while he defensively argues back. Reflecting alone, Wang Yi thinks of himself as just a pervert who finds pleasure in others' pain. He lies down, clearly conflicted. Qin Xian listens and reacts softly, thinking it's a good sign that Wang Yi feels guilt. Touched by Wang Yi's vulnerability, he gently reaches out. Then, he asks if they should give their relationship a try. Wang Yi is stunned and confused by the unexpected suggestion. Through the window, their silhouettes are seen in quiet conversation as Wang Yi hesitantly asks what Qin Xian means. Later, Wang Yi sits alone on a bench outside under the sunlight, the mood calm and reflective. Qin Xian approaches and hands him a drink. Wang Yi silently looks up, accepts the drink, and thanks him. The two share a quiet, sincere moment. Wang Yi punctures the lid of his drink with a straw. He and Qin Xian sit quietly, sipping their drinks as Wang Yi reflects that the moment ended a bit too abruptly. He comments that the drink tastes good. Qin Xian agrees, mentioning it's a popular recommendation among girls. They continue sitting in silence, drinking side by side. Out of the blue, Wang Yi asks Qin Xian if he likes him. Qin Xian choked on his milk tea. Wang Yi looks confused, wondering if his guess is correct. Qin Xian quickly composes himself and tries to play it cool, casually asking if Wang Yi didn't already know. Wang Yi freezes in shock, mentally analyzing everything. Then he jumps up in realization, asking Qin Xian if his assumption is right. He panics, yelling that the situation is messed up since they're brothers. Qin Xian calmly reminds him they're not blood-related. Wang Yi rattles off reasons they can't be together, but Qin Xian rebuts each one with logic, leaving Wang Yi to yell that he's completely missing the point. Dramatically crying, Wang Yi calls Qin Xian a freak for being in love, while Qin Xian sips his drink, unfazed. In a comedic small theater segment, Qin Xian bribes the real Xiaoro with milk tea to keep her away from the plot. She happily agrees and walks off, completely distracted. Wang Yi calls Qin Xian a freak. Qin Xian points out that Wang Yi is as twisted as him, leaving Wang Yi confused by his words. Qin Xian reassures him that he won't get hurt and insists he can always meet Wang Yi's needs. He says they're compatible and believes they should be together. Wang Yi hesitantly asks if Qin Xian genuinely likes him. Qin Xian looks puzzled and asks if Wang Yi doubts his feelings. Struggling to explain, Wang Yi admits that his hobbies are strange, but he's good at observing people. He confesses that he usually hides his real self around others, but with Qin Xian, it feels different. Wang Yi adds that he doesn't feel the same kind of romance with Qin Xian as he did with girls who confessed to him before. He concludes that Qin Xian's feelings might just be the result of being bullied when they were younger, not actual love. Qin Xian looks at Wang Yi silently, his expression unreadable. Then he calmly states that his feelings aren't the result of trauma bonding. Wang Yi responds in confusion, saying the whole situation still feels strange. As Qin Xian begins to walk away, drinks in hand, Wang Yi panics and tells him not to leave. Wang Yi runs after him, asking him to wait and give him some time to think. He touches his head, mentioning that his memory hasn't fully returned yet and reflecting on how sharp Qin Xian's intuition is. Doubting his feelings, Wang Yi questions whether the male lead could truly love his Guga and wonders if it's even real love. Qin Xian watches quietly before admitting it's not love. It's a desire to keep Wang Yi's kindness all to himself. He imagines holding a smaller, fragile version of Wang Yi, with the word possessiveness glowing beneath them. Qin Xian reflects that it doesn't matter if Wang Yi is genuine or pretending. They continue with the mission, so giving them the debrief. Meanwhile, Xiaoro greets another Chen-Li cheerfully. Chen-Li considers that Wen Xiaoro might not be too bad as Qin Xian observes them from a distance. Qin Xian suddenly pulls Wen Xiaoro into a hug. Startling Chen-Li/Wang Yi looks uncomfortable, while Qin Xian smirks, clearly amused. Qin Xian acknowledges that his actions are becoming more twisted, but there's no way that he would let his Guga get away. S.O. excitedly announces that most of the plot has been completed and that points have been earned. Wang Yi is thrilled and says he wants to leave town. But Qin Xian reminds him to inform their father first. Just as Wang Yi thinks it's over, Qin Xian brings up his earlier confession, leaving Wang Yi surprised. Qin Xian comments that Wang Yi has shrunk again. He would relentlessly ask him until he agreed. S.O. then asks if they want to read the reader's comments, revealing praise for both the male and female leads. Qin Xian and Wang Yi exchange confused and uneasy glances. As Wang Yi reads a comment, he panics, worried that someone might have figured things out. Qin Xian finds the nickname used in the comment amusing. S.O. warns them not to get too confident, reminding them that the next part of the plot is critical. A visual of Qin Xian and Wen Xiaoro kissing appears on screen, signaling the next story arc. Wang Yi is shocked to find out the new plot involves a romantic school trip. He panics at the thought of having Qin Xian confess to him again, while Qin Xian gets annoyed at Wang Yi's thoughts. Qin Xian tells him that he shouldn't go if he does not want to. His kind tone is a ploy to play hard to get. Wang Yi asks if he can sit this one out, and Qin Xian reluctantly tells him that he can stay home. Wang Yi happily waves goodbye, saying he'll enjoy the peace at home. Wang Yi tries to lift his spirits, encouraging him to cheer up. After Qin Xian leaves and the door slams shut, Wang Yi stares at it, wondering if Qin Xian is angry. Determined, Wang Yi puts on a disguise. S.O. asks what he's doing. Wang Yi declares he'll secretly follow Qin Xian and won't leave the plot entirely up to him. He grabs his bag and excitedly announces that he's going on vacation, with his significant other S.O. tagging along. The scene then shifts to a scenic view of Changqing Mountain, where the school trip takes place. In a playful small theater segment, Wang Yi tries to peek into Qin Xian's heart but is warned not to. Still, he insists on keeping the script, refusing to let go of the story just yet. The sun shines brightly over the thick forest of the Changqing Mountain, where the school trip is taking place. Wang Yi, already tired, questions why Qin Xian would pick such a remote destination. Meanwhile, S.O. relaxes comfortably in his bag. S.O. comments on how refreshing the mountain air is, while Wang Yi grumbles that only S.O. is enjoying it and tells him to walk on his own. S.O. compliments Wang Yi on his recent efforts to push the plot forward. Wang Yi listens quietly. S.O. then asks if he has regained his memories, which causes Wang Yi to pause uncertainly. When he questions the timing of S.O.'s inquiry, S.O. suggests that Wang Yi's growing emotions for Qin Xian might be interfering with his memory recovery. Wang Yi is startled by this and begins to reflect more seriously. He wonders aloud if he really likes Qin Xian, and S.O. confirms it cheerfully. Wang Yi goes silent, his expression growing thoughtful. A flashback shows the two boys studying together, with Qin Xian teasing Wang Yi for being distracted during an exam. Wang Yi recalls that if he had a younger brother, he'd want him to be like Qin Xian. He smiles softly at the memory. Walking ahead, Wang Yi says it's a shame and reflects that choosing to stay with Qin Xian had always felt like the easiest option. Now, he wants to make the most of the time he has left. Determined, Wang Yi thinks about repaying everything he owes him. Suddenly, S.O. alerts Wang Yi that he spotted the heroine. Wang Yi immediately reacts, rushing ahead to check. He spots the girls nearby and gets excited at the thought that the story is progressing. So explains that Chen Li and Wen Xiaoro were assigned to chop wood as part of their task. As expected, Chen Li makes Xiaoro do all the work, which leads to her injuring her hand. Right on cue, Qin Xian appears and steps in to help. Qin Xian tends to Xiaoro's injured hand and promises to take care of her for the rest of the trip. Without hesitation, he picks her up and carries her away, leaving the onlookers surprised and confused. So excitedly celebrates, saying this moment creates a strong foundation for the final confession scene. Wang Yi, however, questions why Qin Xian had to carry her when only her hand was hurt. So replies that Wang Yi just doesn't understand romance. So announces that the main plot has officially started. Meanwhile, Chen Li looks annoyed by the situation. Chen Li complains about the school making them do such primitive work, while Xiaoro tries to stay positive, saying it might be fun. A note mentions that due to Wang Yi's earlier interference, Xiaoro doesn't realize she's being bullied. Chen Li bitterly tells Xiaoro to go ahead if she finds it so enjoyable and admits she once thought she would end up with Qin Xian. Xiaoro does not care. So narrates that the heroine is supposed to be in low spirits and eventually injures herself while chopping wood. Wang Yi and So hide in the bushes, watching everything unfold. But instead of struggling, Xiaoro starts chopping wood confidently. Wang Yi is stunned by her unexpected skill. Xiaoro chops with surprising strength, catching everyone off guard. Wang Yi and So are both in disbelief, and even Chen Li is shocked. Xiaoro cheerfully explains that she's used to doing chores at home, so she's strong. Her confidence leaves Chen Li speechless, who then questions why a girl would even be doing manual labor. Xiaoro simply looks puzzled by the question. When Xiaoro questions why girls can't do manual labor, Chen Li argues that girls should still appear refined to be liked by boys. Xiaoro asks if being liked by a boy is more important than liking yourself first. Chen Li is left speechless by the sincerity of her statement. Xiaoro admits she used to think girls had to be weak and delicate, but remembers a kind boy once telling her that girls can be strong too, just like boys. With a confident smile, Xiaoro declares that her current priority is studying and preparing for exams, not romance. She doesn't want to be distracted by love right now. Chen Li is stunned to hear that Xiaoro doesn't have romantic feelings for Qin Xian. In the bushes, Wang Yi and So are equally shocked and despairing. When Xiaoro casually asks why she would like Qin Xian, Wang Yi and So react dramatically, both suffering exaggerated nosebleeds in disbelief. Wang Yi panics, confused about why the plot is going so off course. So explains that it's because Wang Yi ended up taking over all of the heroine's scenes. To make things even more complicated, Xiaoro blushes and confesses that the person she likes is Wang Yi. Both Wang Yi and So are stunned into silence, unable to process what they just heard. Then, horror sets in as Wang Yi realizes Qin Xian overheard everything. When Xiaoro confesses that the person she likes is Wang Yi, just as Qin Xian approaches and hears it, when he reaches the girls, he casually asks what they are talking about. After a beat, Wen Xiaoro responds, nervously saying it wasn't anything important. She blushes, trying to brush it off. Qin Xian tells them the wood is already chopped and says they should return. As he speaks, Xiaoro takes Chen Li's hands, and the two girls leave. Qin Xian thinks to himself that Xiaoro does like Wang Yi and reflects on how many people seem to be drawn to Wang Yi. He wonders what he should do next. Uncertainty written on his face. As he is contemplating his next move, he hears a rustle from the bushes. He turns to look around, scanning the area thoughtfully. Finding nothing amiss, he wonders if it was just his imagination. Meanwhile, Wang Yi is panicking about the broken plot. So urges him to fix the situation and suggests making Qin Xian clean up the scene to redirect things. Wang Yi quickly changes his mind, saying not to jump out yet. They need to wait for the right moment. Back with the group, Xiaoro asks Qin Xian what he's looking at. Qin Xian gives a small smile and says that for some reason, he feels relieved. Everyone gathers in the kitchen, impressed that Qin Xian can cook. Wang Yi and So peek in from the side as the other students praise him. The girls crowd around Qin Xian, admiring him while he cooks, and Wang Yi sulks in the background, clearly annoyed. Qin Xian approaches with a dish. Wang Yi wants to tell him to pay attention to Xiaoro. Hope rise in Wang Yi's chest when Qin Xian got closer to Xiaoro, only to be disappointed when he realized that Qin Xian is focused on cooking. So warns Wang Yi that if he doesn't take action soon, the plot might collapse. Wang Yi responds weakly that they should wait it out. Meanwhile, Qin Xian looks over his shoulder and spots them. A girl nearby asks Qin Xian to divide the food by portion, but instead, he requests an extra serving. She questions it, and Qin Xian just smiles, not giving a direct answer. While cracking an egg, he says simply that he doesn't want anyone to go hungry. He finishes preparing a neatly plated meal topped with a fried egg. Soon, a teacher announces that all students should gather to head to the mountains. Wang Yi heads to the kitchen and S.O. walks beside him, sniffing the air. Wang Yi realizes the food left behind is from Qin Xian. Wang Yi notices that Qin Xian left an extra bowl of food for him. As he reaches for it, S.O. watches with curiosity. When Wang Yi starts eating, S.O. scolds him, suggesting that the bowl might have been meant for someone else. Wang Yi brushes it off, saying there's no one else it could be for. Mid-bite, he hesitates and starts to second-guess himself. Eating the food might have been selfish. Embarrassed, he hides his face, feeling awkward about the situation. The system explains that, in the original story, Qin Xian is supposed to accompany the injured heroine on a mountain expedition. Because he carried her earlier, Qin Li becomes jealous and intentionally removes warning signs along the trail to get them lost. As the plot unfolds, Qin Xian and the heroine are meant to huddle together in the rain, unable to contact anyone. Believing they might not survive the night, Qin Xian is supposed to confess his feelings, an emotional, dramatic turning point in the original narrative. Back in the present, Wang Yi panics when he realizes Qin Xian hasn't returned. The teacher notices that someone is missing, and Wang Yi starts to lose faith in the plot moving forward as expected. Determined, Wang Yi tells S.O. to stay behind and report if there's any news about Qin Xian. He gives S.O. a task, then heads into the mountains himself to find Qin Xian. Under the moonlight, Wang Yi checks the map and believes that Qin Xian should be nearby. Wrapping a scarf around himself, he notes the unexpected chill in the air and starts to feel sorry for Qin Xian and the heroine. As the wind picks up, he shields his eyes and spots Qin Xian hiding behind a tree. Qin Xian looks back at him. Without warning, Wang Yi grabs him and calls him a brat. Wang Yi accuses him of staying behind on purpose. Qin Xian compliments Wang Yi on his quick thinking. Qin Xian explains that it's not what Wang Yi thinks. Wang Yi then notices that Qin Xian's leg is injured. Qin Xian tells him that he fell off the tree. Wang Yi has trust issues and at first does not believe that Qin Xian is injured. Qin Xian then pulls something from his jacket and says he just wants to take the thing up the tree. Wang Yi is surprised as Qin Xian reveals a tiny bird in his hands. The bird chirps, and Wang Yi finds the bird adorable. Stunned, Wang Yi asks where he found the bird. Qin Xian shares that the bird had fallen from its nest, and he fell while trying to return it. Wang Yi finally understands the situation. Wang Yi apologizes for misunderstanding Qin Xian and reflects on how quickly he jumped to conclusions. Qin Xian gently reassures him that it's okay. Qin Xian knows that Wang Yi is the kind of person who'd go out of his way to help a helpless creature. Qin Xian admits that he did it to understand Wang Yi, and they share a quiet, meaningful moment. Wang Yi is surprised to learn that Qin Xian's actions were all because of him. Qin Xian calmly confirms it and says Wang Yi is gentle, and that he wants to become just as gentle. Wang Yi listens, visibly touched by the sincerity in his voice. Overwhelmed, he wonders if he's somehow become a role model. The thought leaves him both proud and shocked. Qin Xian smiles and thanks him, and Wang Yi happily volunteers to return the bird. Watching him climb up the tree, Qin Xian smiles to himself conspiratorially. Wang Yi carefully places the baby bird back in its nest. Qin Xian knew that this kind of thing would make Wang Yi drop his guard. He is glad that he found the bird, but he does not immediately return the bird to its nest. A flashback reveals that he intentionally took a fall to injure his leg. Smiling to himself, he admits that the injury was deliberate, all so that Wang Yi would come looking for him. In a cheerful moment, Wang Yi leaps down the tree. Winking, he confidently assured Qin Xian that he understood everything. Meanwhile, S.O. is flustered as the white cat affectionately corners him against a tree. S.O. wonders in surprise how the other cat managed to find him. Qin Xian leans on Wang Yi as they slowly make their way through the forest. Both of them are tired and sore, moving carefully. Wang Yi complains of how heavy Qin Xian is, clearly straining under the effort. Wang Yi's scarf is wrapped snugly around Qin Xian's injured leg as a makeshift bandage. Qin Xian glances down quietly, and Wang Yi looks over with concern, asking if the wound still hurts. Qin Xian shakes his head and says he was just looking at the scarf. He then asks if he can keep it. Wang Yi is surprised by the request, but eventually agrees with a small nod. As it begins to rain, Wang Yi worries they won't make it back in time, and Qin Xian apologizes for being such a burden. Wang Yi reassures him gently, saying it's too dangerous to continue walking with his leg injured. They both spot a nearby cave and head toward it for shelter. Inside the cave, they sit down to rest. Realizing they'll have to wait to be found, Wang Yi checks on Qin Xian and offers to take a closer look at the injury. Wang Yi warns that the sprain might worsen. Qin Xian tells him to keep the scarf on as he likes the feeling of the scarf wrapped around him. Wang Yi looks at him in annoyance, realizing that Qin Xian is hinting at having masochistic tendencies. Qin Xian meets his gaze with a mischievous small smile. Qin Xian looks at the red scarf tied around his leg and softly compares it to a red thread of fate. He says that if Wang Yi ties him up with it, it means he belongs to him. Then he adds that Wang Yi will be his too, silently promising to never let go. Wang Yi, confused by the sudden shift, wonders if Qin Xian is acting oddly. He then realized that Qin Xian was probably trying to complete the task. Overjoyed, Wang Yi praises him. Acting Xiaorou's part, Wang Yi checks Qin Xian's temperature. Meanwhile, Qin Xian is having thoughts of locking Wang Yi up if he tries to leave once the plot ends. Wang Yi confirms that Qin Xian doesn't have a fever. Qin Xian gently touches Wang Yi's face and confesses that he likes him. In Qin Xian's mind, he plans to finish the scene with Wang Yi to put him at ease. Wang Yi freezes, his thoughts racing as he recognizes this as the climax in a story. Pretending to be Xiaorou, he asks Qin Xian to confirm what he just said. Qin Xian calmly repeats it. He likes him. Qin Xian asks if Xiaorou would return his feelings. His dark thoughts desperately want Wang Yi to like him back. Wang Yi, completely flustered, calls Qin Xian a brat in his head, but before he can respond, Qin Xian kisses him. The system chimes in, confirming this is the climax of the story, marked by the kiss between the lead characters. But before the moment can settle, Wang Yi suddenly takes control and kisses Qin Xian more deeply, catching him off guard. As Qin Xian pulls back to catch his breath, Wang Yi covers his nose with a cloth. He inhales, realizing that the cloth is doused with some sort of chemical. He demands to know what Wang Yi just gave him. Wang Yi calmly explains that it's medicine to help him sleep, because there are no more plot tasks left. Qin Xian realizes with a sinking heart that Wang Yi came here to say goodbye. Clutching the scarf tightly, he listens as Wang Yi kisses his forehead and gently tells him to sleep until everything is over. Groggy and confused, Qin Xian weakly calls out to Wang Yi as his vision begins to fade. Qin Xian stares at Wang Yi, softly calling his name with a dazed and confused expression. He reaches out and grabs onto Wang Yi's coat with a desperate grip, clinging to him and asking if he's going to leave. His voice trembles, and his eyes are full of hurt and vulnerability. Wang Yi responds seriously, saying he has to go. His tone is calm but firm. Qin Xian, fearing the reason, pleads to know how he was not able to catch on when he could read Wang Yi's mind. Wang Yi lets out a sigh. He was able to guess that Qin Xian was obsessed with him and would not let him get away. He has been controlling his inner thoughts around Qin Xian. Wang Yi admits he's hidden parts of his past, especially the parts he didn't want Qin Xian to see. A flashback shows a younger Wang Yi standing silently, while classmates react in disgust to a dead animal. A girl chimes in, saying she doesn't understand how someone could hurt something as cute as a cat. Wang Yi answers that whoever did it must have been curious to see if the cat was pregnant. The crime was driven by curiosity. Wang Yi's thoughts are that I'm a psychopath. The scene shifts back to the rainy night outside the cave, blending his memory into the present. Wang Yi confesses he might have been born a villain. He admits it took great effort to even begin understanding what normal people feel. He explains that while he often fails to relate to others' emotions, he easily grasps the thoughts of wrongdoers. He believes that's why the system chose him to play the villain. A memory flashes showing a report, his villain gene tested at 99%, marking him as highly prone to malice. Yet the system recognized how rare it was for someone like him to suppress those urges. That's what made him the ideal host for SO. Wang Yi looks at Qin Xian and apologizes. He says it's unfair for someone like Qin Xian, a protagonist, to be influenced by someone like him. His voice is steady, but his guilt is clear. Wang Yi tells Qin Xian that he doesn't want to turn him into a villain. He insists on leaving even as Qin Xian tries to hold him back. Wang Yi hugs him tightly and apologizes, saying he may never be able to repay what he owes. Later, Qin Xian is alone in the cave, resting quietly with Wang Yi gone. The atmosphere is calm but tinged with sadness. At the camp, SO greets Wang Yi upon his return, asking if the task has been completed. Wang Yi confirms, reporting that Qin Xian's injuries were treated and now it's time to notify the teachers. SO informs him of his system notification. Wang Chengbing found out that Wang Yi is not the biological heir of the Wang family. Curious, SO asks what he did. Wang Yi admits he sent an anonymous letter with a paternity test. SO confirms all conditions have been met, signaling the story is now complete. SO asks if they're ready to leave, but Wang Yi stays silent, watching the rain. After a moment, he snaps out of it and tells SO they can go now. SO picks up on his hesitation and questions whether he truly wants to leave. Wang Yi insists he must. He says that, as a villain, he needs to be ruthless and cold-hearted. A proper villain, he believes, should torment the protagonist and disappear in tragedy. Thunder cracks as he declares his retirement from the role. Back in the cave, Qin Xian, weak and bleeding, calls out for Wang Yi. He clutches the red scarf and swears that if Wang Yi can't repay him in this life, then he'll do it in the next, even if it means crossing life and death. Wang Yi is introduced as the main character, tasked with traveling through different novels as the antagonist. His missions are guided by SO, a black cat who acts as his system companion. In each story, Wang Yi must bully and torment the male lead, earning the role of the ultimate villain. In one storyline, he physically intimidates Qin Xian, the male lead and his younger stepbrother in this arc. The system explains that Wang Yi's actions are meant to leave Qin Xian with lifelong trauma. However, the weight of his cruelty overwhelms Wang Yi, and he breaks down in guilt, unable to handle what he's done. Despite following his villain role, Wang Yi's inner kindness often slips through. Qin Xian, introduced as the male lead, becomes wary after overhearing Wang Yi's genuine concern during a moment when Wang Yi celebrates their father's return, believing it means Qin Xian will get a proper meal. What he did not know at the time was that Qin Xian could read minds. SO punishes him for deviating from the script, revealing that Wang Yi frequently goes off-plot. To fix the mission, Wang Yi uses a disguise item and transforms into the female lead to redirect the story towards the original plot. Though frustrated by the cross-dressing and emotional toll, he prepares to continue the mission, determined to make up for his past actions. As the disguised female lead, Wang Yi tries to win over Qin Xian. However, his internal thoughts often contradict his actions, making Qin Xian suspicious. Still, Wang Yi manages to get close, and Qin Xian, despite his caution, begins to associate this new presence with feelings of love. Qin Xian begins to wonder if these feelings resemble the kind of love his mother had for a man, which unsettles him. Despite the inner turmoil, Qin Xian becomes increasingly aware of Wang Yi's sincerity and warmth. But when a mission requires Wang Yi to lock Qin Xian in a locker, it sends Qin Xian into a breakdown. Wang Yi stands outside, tense and visibly regretting his actions. Inside, Qin Xian recognizes Wang Yi's voice and desperately calls out to his big bro, crying and blaming himself as he bangs on the door in panic. Bloodied and terrified, Qin Xian pleads to be let out, and Wang Yi, unable to leave, sits beside the locker, guilt eating away at him. Qin Xian cries alone inside, swearing that one day he'll make Wang Yi his, no matter what. From that point on, Qin Xian shifts. He declares that now it's his turn to trap Wang Yi. Later, Qin Xian appears at Wang Yi's door, surprising him. Dressed in a school uniform, he shows Wang Yi a failed test and admits his mistake. He then requests punishment, revealing he's come to enjoy the rough treatment. Wang Yi, flustered, denies taking any pleasure in it and insists it's all just part of the mission. The brief glimpse shows future villains Wang Yi may encounter as the story continues. In upcoming arcs, he takes on new disguises like a mad scientist or mafia boss. A comedic chibi scene pokes fun at character development over time. Finally, a flashback introduces a past transmigrator who completed all missions and unlocked the power to read minds. However, despite his success, the power drove him insane, and his soul eventually shattered, its fragments scattered across different worlds. Qin Xian holds Wang Yi tightly, emphasizing to the audience that the embrace is purely emotional, not romantic or inappropriate. It's a moment of vulnerability and comfort, born from complex feelings and past trauma. Earlier, we learned through a flashback that another transmigrator, after gaining mind-reading powers, lost his mind from the weight of what he learned. Though he conquered many worlds, his soul eventually shattered and was scattered, hinting at the risk Wang Yi might face. In the present, Wang Yi breaks down in a fiery vision, overwhelmed by guilt and questioning if he's living a nightmare. A flashback reveals he caused a deadly bus crash, which led the system to flag him as having strong villain traits. SO identifies him as the one responsible for the tragedy, labeling him a murderer. Wang Yi is stunned. Despite all this, Qin Xian calls him kind, catching him off guard. Wang Yi confesses he didn't cry even after losing his friends and lashes out, questioning how someone like him could be called kind. A narrator explains that one of the crash survivors had their entire personality altered due to Wang Yi's actions. After hitting his head, Wang Yi forgets everything, including his mission. He wakes up confused, wondering why he isn't on the bus with his class, slowly recalling fragments of the past. Casually and surprisingly lighthearted, he tells Qin Xian he thinks he's transmigrated. Qin Xian is shocked by how relaxed he is but takes advantage of the situation, bringing him home. Qin Xian calmly asks Wang Yi for help. Curious, Wang Yi asks what kind of help and is surprised when Qin Xian asks him to dress like his older brother using a wig. Qin Xian gently touches him and starts to make a serious request, then suddenly hugs him tightly, seeking emotional reassurance. Wang Yi embraces Qin Xian, offering the comfort that Qin Xian had longed for from the only person who truly cared for him. Despite Wang Yi's role as a villain, his actions show the depth of his hidden feelings. Meanwhile, the female protagonist, Xiaoro, continues to live her life. She thanks Qin Xian for keeping her part-time job a secret. She finds herself completely ignored by Qin Xian, who has eyes only for Wang Yi. At school, Xiaoro tries to get closer to Qin Xian, but his polite indifference makes the moment awkward. The narration humorously mocks their designated ship as hopeless. Qin Xian eventually reveals that he can read minds and knows about Wang Yi's mission, calling him out directly. He suggests Wang Yi continue playing the female lead using the wig, explaining that only with Wang Yi can he reach the emotional depth required by the story. To remove obstacles, Qin Xian plans to tell his father they aren't biologically related, clearing the path for their strange but growing connection. Fully aware it's a performance, he still embraces the fake romance. In a comedic aside, Qin Xian bribes Xiaoro with milk tea to stay out of the way. She agrees and cheerfully leaves. In the scene meant to be the climax, Wang Yi, now disguised again as Xiaoro, asks Qin Xian if he truly likes her. Qin Xian calmly says yes. He then leans in and asks if Xiaoro likes him too. Wang Yi, internally panicking, nervously tries to respond but is caught off guard when Qin Xian suddenly kisses him. The narration marks it as the official storybook ending, a kiss between the main characters. A glowing interface signals the mission's supposed conclusion. During the kiss, Wang Yi pinches Qin Xian's cheek in disbelief, mentally panicking that he can't breathe. When he finally pulls back, he's overwhelmed, while Qin Xian blushes furiously and covers his mouth. Suddenly, Qin Xian collapses to the floor, bleeding. A red warning glow appears, alerting that Wang Yi can't leave. A glowing mark on Qin Xian's hand signals that the system has reasserted control, turning the moment dark and serious. Qin Xian, devastated, realizes he couldn't hold on to Wang Yi in this lifetime. He vows to find him again, even if it means crossing through lifetimes. As Wang Yi disappears to continue his missions, Qin Xian, injured but resolute, promises to follow him into the next world. Wang Yi sits alone in the transmigration waiting room after completing the latest novel mission. A congratulatory message pops up, informing him that he has earned 5,000 mission points. Though the reward is substantial, Wang Yi stares downward, lost in thought. The system reminds him that he can spend the points in the shop or save them. Wang Yi looks up, considering the auction seriously. He contemplates using the points to obtain a time travel item. His mind drifts back to his past and the friends he lost. He hopes that someday he'll be able to turn back time and save them. So appears beside him, praising his performance, but Wang Yi remains quiet, deep in reflection. So informs him that he's the second villain in history to earn such a high score. Wang Yi asks if the legendary villain was the first. He then wonders aloud whether that villain used fan service tactics to succeed. So is baffled by Wang Yi's casual tone, while Wang Yi insists that completing missions is what truly matters. So warns that he can't copy the legendary villain's approach. That villain is from a higher dimension and is capable of casting spells far beyond human comprehension. He always had full control of the protagonists. Wang Yi lies on the floor listening, intrigued. When So calls the villain charismatic, Wang Yi argues that he's attractive too. So promptly shuts him down. Shifting gears, So introduces the next mission, describing it as dangerous but high reward. Wang Yi lights up with excitement and demands to see the details. So obliges, activating the mission display. Wang Yi watches closely as the setting is revealed, a zombie apocalypse. Wang Yi is stunned by the genre shift, while So cheerfully confirms it. The mission briefing explains that a mysterious virus outbreak is turning humans into zombies. The infection spreads rapidly through bites or bodily fluid contact, and death is inevitable for the infected. Wang Yi compares the scenario to zombie movies he's seen and asks if this is still one of those teen girl novels. So confirms it with a smug grin. The story shifts into a new arc with the revelation that only a small portion of the human population mutates after the zombie outbreak. Wang Yi is shown struggling on a couch as the initial symptoms of mutation take hold. After enduring the difficult process, he awakens with strange powers and stares in amazement at the sparks flickering in his hands. It's revealed that both Wang Yi and the male lead have gained unique abilities in this world. The male lead stands protectively with a weapon behind a seated Wang Yi, signaling a dynamic shift in their relationship. The first chapter of this new arc begins in a chaotic city filled with roaming zombies, firmly establishing the apocalyptic tone. At this point, the male lead hasn't awakened any powers. He's seen walking through a clean and sterile hallway, unbothered by the surrounding danger. Two men notice him from a distance, surprised to see him there. They question whether the man they're seeing is Officer Chin and comment on his connection to the city lord. Despite being regarded as an ordinary human, Qin Xian holds a high-ranking position. The two men gossip, wondering how someone without abilities rose to such influence. Qin Xian passes through a secured door, unfazed by the whispers. He hears them suspecting that he's benefiting from his relationship with the city lord and that they should have done the same. Qin Xian remains composed, though he acknowledges internally that many underestimate him. Stepping into an elevator, he mentally prepares himself for what lies ahead. When the doors open, the scene changes to an indoor pool. Someone swims gracefully in the water. Wang Yi floats calmly and greets Qin Xian with formal politeness. The air is tense yet refined. As Wang Yi rises from the water, his presence exudes confidence and power. Fan service alert. This image is worth 10,000 villain points. He casually acknowledges Qin Xian, who silently observes him. A caption reveals that Wang Yi is now the city lord and the main antagonist in this apocalyptic novel world. Wang Yi greets Qin Xian with a confident smile, completely unfazed by his exposed state. As he walks out of the water, he leaves a trail of wet footprints behind. Qin Xian quietly holds out a towel, and Wang Yi takes it, slipping into a robe before calling Qin Xian over. Lounging back with a drink in hand, Wang Yi casually tells Qin Xian to wipe him down. Qin Xian looks confused and reminds Wang Yi that he was summoned here. Questioning if drying him off was the reason, Wang Yi teases him, implying there's nothing wrong with that. Qin Xian pauses but then agrees. He gently pats Wang Yi's head as he starts drying him, and Wang Yi mockingly calls him a good boy. Wang Yi then taunts Qin Xian, reminding him he would have died on the streets without his help. Qin Xian responds with quiet disdain, noting how comfortable Wang Yi still seems despite those harsh times. Leaning back arrogantly, Wang Yi tells Qin Xian he should be grateful. Qin Xian silently stares at him, emotions simmering beneath the surface. Still composed, he begins wiping Wang Yi's arm with a cloth. Wang Yi watches, calm and pleased that Qin Xian is obeying. Qin Xian gently takes Wang Yi's hand and solemnly says he owes him his life. He promises to repay that kindness with unwavering loyalty. Kneeling before him, Qin Xian vows never to betray him. Wang Yi smirks, amused by the display of loyalty, and muses that it's a funny coincidence this Qin Xian shares the same name as the one from before. Wang Yi tells Qin Xian they're heading out tomorrow and invites him to join. Qin Xian asks if they'll be leaving the safety of the walls, and Wang Yi nods. Wang Yi brings up a woman with healing powers who's been helping people, calling her saint-like. Qin Xian asks if Wang Yi plans to recruit her, and Wang Yi confirms it, explaining that healing powers are rare and would make their base stronger. Qin Xian questions whether Wang Yi's intentions are truly for humanity. Wang Yi insists that everything he does is for the greater good, smiling confidently. Later, Wang Yi lies alone in bed, staring at the ceiling. As he drifts off, the system initiates a conversation. So asks if he's adjusted to the new world, and Wang Yi replies that he's doing fine. He reflects that it's strange being the main antagonist and jokes about possibly meeting a tragic end. SL reminds him that playing the villain earns him points quickly, helping him reach his ultimate goal. Wang Yi is described as the ruthless city lord of the 8th shelter. A flashback shows a younger Wang Yi giving money to a poor Qin Xian, a gesture of casual charity. Wang Yi then ordered him to clean up, having decided to mold him into a personal subordinate. Over time, Qin Xian became one of Wang Yi's most loyal followers. Now lounging with SO, Wang Yi confirms he's adapting well. He remembers how his wealthy background got him to safety, though he was bitten by a zombie along the way. After collapsing from a high fever, he nearly turned, but instead, he developed a special mind control power. With this ability, Wang Yi overthrew the shelter's leadership and became city lord. As he pets S.O., the cat acknowledges he now understands Wang Yi's full backstory. S.O. reminds him to use his powers wisely for the sake of the plot. Wang Yi agrees. Back in bed, Wang Yi coldly plans to use his power on Qin Xian during the next day's mission, intending to make him act as a human shield. He even considers disposing of Qin Xian afterward. In the mini-theater, other characters pressure Qin Xian to admit he's the same person with mind-reading abilities. He remains silent while a flame-shaped character promises the truth will be revealed soon. Zombies shuffle through the ruined city streets, the area devastated and lifeless. Military vehicles open fire, mowing down the swarming undead as chaos unfolds. Amidst the destruction, Wang Yi sits calmly in a jeep while Qin Xian stands nearby. Wang Yi remarks that this place used to be a lively commercial district. Qin Xian responds, reminding Wang Yi that this was where he first found him, starving and helpless. Though Wang Yi seems to have forgotten, Qin Xian expresses his gratitude. Wang Yi reacts with slight surprise but quickly shifts into character, smugly replying that he does remember, and without him, Qin Xian would have died. Qin Xian listens silently. Wang Yi then throws his leg onto Qin Xian's lap, complaining about soreness from the ride and demanding a massage. Qin Xian stares at him wordlessly before finally asking why Wang Yi took him in back then. He adds that, no matter who he was then or now, he can never repay Wang Yi's kindness. Wang Yi shrugs it off, saying he chose Qin Xian because beggars are loyal. As Qin Xian silently massages his leg, Wang Yi jokes that Qin Xian is so loyal, he doesn't even need to use his mind control power on him. Qin Xian looks visibly annoyed. Wang Yi laughs and pats him on the back, saying it was just a joke. Then, more seriously, Wang Yi begins to explain why he kept Qin Xian around despite him not having any powers. He finally admits it's because they're friends. Qin Xian looks up, surprised and visibly affected by the unexpected honesty. Qin Xian looks at Wang Yi seriously and asks if he truly considers him a friend. Wang Yi confidently confirms it without hesitation. He declares that he trusts Qin Xian with his life and to not disappoint him. The scene transitions with a narration introducing the novel Gardenia of the Apocalypse, which centers around a compassionate medical student with healing powers. The female lead is shown, and it's revealed she will use her powers to save Qin Xian after he's discarded by the antagonist. A flash of the future shows Qin Xian lying wounded as the female lead checks his condition and urges him to hold on. This is described as the moment he awakens his powers. Another panel reveals Wang Yi defeated on the ground, watching as Qin Xian and the heroine stand united. They later join forces and overthrow him, symbolizing hope and redemption. The narration paints their journey as one of light and rebuilding. Back in the present, Wang Yi smirks while surveying the battlefield. His thoughts confirm that the crucial turning point of the novel has arrived. Suddenly, a mutant zombie charges forward. Qin Xian rushes in to protect Wang Yi, who's caught off guard by the danger. The narration explains that mutant zombies evolve based on traits they had in life. Qin Xian charges at the creature and winces in pain mid-fight, clearly injured. He manages to push Wang Yi out of harm's way and shouts for the others to escape. A nearby soldier hesitates, unable to shoot due to the zombie's speed. Wang Yi watches with growing concern and asks if Qin Xian was bitten. With a serious look, he apologizes, admitting he didn't expect things to go so wrong. A mutant zombie charges after the vehicle as Qin Xian prepares to take Wang Yi back to safety. Qin Xian promises that he'll isolate himself after completing this trip. The tension spikes as the zombie suddenly lunges forward with incredible speed. Qin Xian stands ready while Wang Yi remains seated calmly. As the zombie leaps toward them, Qin Xian slashes it in midair, blood spraying from the impact. Wang Yi analyzes the scene and notes that the zombie only shows mutations in speed and strength, nothing else remarkable. Without emotion, Wang Yi uses his mind control power and commands Qin Xian to stop attacking. Coldly, he gives a shocking order. He tells Qin Xian to let the zombie bite him. Obediently, Qin Xian complied and the zombie sank its teeth into him. Weakly, Qin Xian questions why Wang Yi used his power like that. Wang Yi calmly explains that a feeding zombie is vulnerable, just as he predicted. He raises his gun, his tone detached and analytical. With a smirk, he declares that Qin Xian's sacrifice is worth it. After all, live mutant zombies are hard to come by for experimentation. Still grinning, Wang Yi aims carefully and justifies the decision as a necessary test. Gunfire bursts from his weapon as the zombie clutches onto the wounded Qin Xian. The scene ends with an unsettling blend of strategy and betrayal. Qin Xian and the zombie are both shot, falling backward from the impact as bullets rip through their bodies. Blood sprays through the air as their bodies crash to the ground with a loud thud, stirring dust and debris. Lying wounded, Qin Xian looks up in disbelief and asks Wang Yi why he betrayed him, reminding him they were supposed to be friends. Wang Yi smiles and calmly agrees, confirming they are friends, even as Qin Xian bleeds out in front of him. Wang Yi lifts the zombie's head and says he genuinely likes Qin Xian, flatly telling him that letting him go hurts. Still, he insists it's necessary. Qin Xian, barely conscious, reaches out and grabs Wang Yi's boot, clinging to the hope that surviving this betrayal might trigger an awakening, allowing him to stay by Wang Yi's side. But Wang Yi coldly tells him that's impossible and pulls away. As he looks ahead, he spots a massive horde of zombies closing in on their location. Without hesitation, he kicks Qin Xian's hand aside and orders him to do one last task, serve as bait. Qin Xian, now lying in a pool of blood, weakly refuses. Wang Yi looms over him with a smirk, declaring that Qin Xian's final duty is to die for him. Qin Xian can barely move, helpless beneath Wang Yi's gaze. With eerie satisfaction, Wang Yi tells him he should feel honored by this ending. Then, without pause, he violently kicks Qin Xian across the ground. Blood flies as Qin Xian crashes away. The zombies, drawn by the scent of blood, rush in all at once. Qin Xian, broken and exhausted, is quickly overwhelmed as they descend upon him, tearing and biting with feral intensity. Wang Yi watches the chaos unfold with a calm expression as the system confirms the mission is complete. He orders the driver to start the car, but the man hesitates, clearly shaken. The driver nervously asks if they're leaving Qin Xian behind. Wang Yi doesn't answer. He simply leans in and, with a cold glint in his eyes, says he has other matters to attend to. The driver flinches in fear. Wang Yi then uses his brainwashing power, commanding the driver to forget everything that just happened. Under hypnosis, he instructs the man to deliver a false report. The city lord and his aide were separated while chasing a mutant zombie and will return by sundown. After confirming the hypnosis worked, Wang Yi tells the driver to drop him off elsewhere. As the vehicle pulls away, Wang Yi reflects quietly on whether he was cruel enough. Doubts creep in about letting Qin Xian get shot, but he forces the emotions down. Meanwhile, back at the battlefield, Qin Xian, bloodied and enraged, fights off the swarm of zombies with raw determination. The narration confirms he survives. Injured and furious at Wang Yi's betrayal, he swears revenge. Overwhelmed by rage and despair, Qin Xian unintentionally awakens his special power, omnipotence. The narration explains that this ability allows him to instantly learn and master any power, which he uses to escape the horde. The female lead arrives on the scene after hearing gunfire and quickly tends to Qin Xian's wounds. Still burning with betrayal, he vows to return to the 8th shelter and take revenge on Wang Yi. Sparks of electricity flare near Wang Yi's feet as the narration confirms Qin Xian was discarded like trash. Wang Yi convinces himself that mutual hatred is better for them both. Wang Yi remembers someone else who shared Qin Xian's name and regrets the mistakes he made in that past life. Wang Yi resolves to never repeat those same errors. Coldly, he decides to erase all unnecessary emotions and memories. The narration resets, marking a new chapter in the story's progression. Wang Yi returns carrying a captured zombie, while a subordinate points out that it's getting dark and they still haven't found the healing saint. The team grows concerned. One subordinate suggests they return to the shelter, but Wang Yi instructs them to deliver the mutated zombie to the research center instead. His decisiveness impresses the team. However, another soldier hesitates, nervously bringing up Officer Qin. At the mention of his name, Wang Yi falls silent, visibly conflicted. As birds fly across the sky, someone wonders aloud whether it's time to leave the city altogether. Back in the shelter, Wang Yi collapses onto a couch with So beside him. He's visibly drained, emotionally and physically exhausted from pretending to be innocent after nearly killing someone. So questions him, implying that this kind of mission is what Wang Yi wanted all along. So reminds Wang Yi that playing the villain helps complete missions faster, increasing his chances of leaving the world. Wang Yi agrees, but he quietly insists he won't intentionally hurt anyone ever again. He reflects on how he used Qin Xian to trigger his power awakening and acknowledges that he'll accept any revenge that comes his way. Even so, Wang Yi finds some relief in believing that this world's Qin Xian isn't like the one from before, just a typical protagonist, he tells himself. Meanwhile, Qin Xian lies unconscious and heavily bandaged. Despite his injuries, his body undergoes rapid changes. He awakens in pain as new powers surge within him: super strength, super speed, and even space manipulation. As if that weren't enough, a final ability unlocks: mind reading. Qin Shian's transformation is complete, and his powers are now far beyond ordinary. Wang Yi finds himself restless and bored without Qin Shian by his side. The absence weighs on him. One morning, he's jolted awake by his S.O., who loudly demands food. Grumbling, Wang Yi complains about S.O. stepping on him, even though he did hear him the first time. He sluggishly gets up and pours some expired cat food into a bowl, admitting it's all he has left. He explains that the servant who used to prepare raw meat for S.O. was disposed of, a consequence of Wang Yi's increasingly ruthless persona. As Wang Yi reflects, he questions whether the city lord needed to sacrifice Qin Shian to obtain a mutant zombie. S.O. comments bluntly that Qin Shian was just a disposable pet in the eyes of the villainous version of Wang Yi. With his new control-type power, Wang Yi can now command others at will, making Qin Shian's loyalty seem less unique. No one had anticipated that Qin Shian would awaken omnipotence. Irritated, Wang Yi slouches at the counter. S.O. asks what's bothering him. Wang Yi vents, saying it's become too difficult to act like a villain when the person he's supposed to hurt is someone he cares about. S.O. listens quietly. Trying to keep him focused, S.O. reminds him that a villain needs to be cruel to pitiful characters to entertain readers. Without that, he wouldn't seem convincing. Still, S.O. acknowledges that Wang Yi has kept a moral compass despite his assigned role, and that deserves praise. Wang Yi sighs, leaning his head on the counter, and softly says he doesn't deserve credit for that. S.O. eyes him curiously, sensing there's more beneath the surface. Wang Yi brushes it off, insisting he'll stick to his role and continue being mean to Qin Shian to stay in character. Just then, the system reveals a new mission. Qin Shian, now furious and heartbroken, is seeking revenge. He wants Wang Yi to feel the same pain he went through. The narration adds that Qin Shian's goal now aligns with the female leads to return to the 8th shelter and bring down the city lord. The female lead enthusiastically agrees to accompany Qin Shian back to the 8th shelter. She explains that with the medical equipment there and her healing abilities, she hopes to save even more people. Quietly, she and Qin Shian make a secret promise to support each other in their missions. While she focuses on rescuing civilians, Qin Shian plans to spy on Wang Yi, pretending to forget the past while secretly passing on intel. Their cooperation is expected to gradually grow into romantic feelings. Meanwhile, Wang Yi, donning a white coat, readies himself for his next strategic move. Determined to be hated by the entire shelter before Qin Shian and the heroine return, he storms into the research center. A staff member tries to stop him, but Wang Yi pushes through and slams his hand down in frustration. He demands an update on the mutated zombie research. The researcher nervously admits they've only just started, prompting Wang Yi to call them useless. Angry, he kicks a chair and berates the team for their incompetence. He threatens to fire them and send them to the slums if there are no results by tomorrow. Feeling smug, Wang Yi internally affirms that it's time to make life harder for everyone. Over the next few days, Wang Yi executes a series of cold-hearted policies. On the second day, he visits the slums, mocking the residents for always being poor. He throws leftover candies on the ground, watching in silence as the children collect them. On the third day, he raised taxes on a man simply for earning too much. The man is stunned. On the fourth day, he shuts down the flea market for being unsightly. The vendors beg him to reconsider, but he ignores their pleas. On the fifth day, Wang Yi orders the city walls to be reinforced in response to wall-climbing zombies. By the sixth day, cannons are installed along the perimeter, completing the upgraded defenses. Looking down from the wall, Wang Yi spots a familiar vehicle approaching the city. Qin Shian and his group have arrived. Inside the car, the girl points ahead, noting that the 8th shelter is now in sight. Qin Shian listened quietly, his expression unreadable. He tells her he'll part ways after entering and warns her to be cautious. Spies are likely stationed near the city gate. The air between them grows tense as they finalize the plan. Qin Shian clenches his fist tightly in silence, struggling to contain his emotions. Its glare sharpens with a mix of determination and simmering anger. Now revealed as an omnipotent mutant, he silently calls out to Wang Yi, vowing to uncover the truth behind his betrayal. Fueled by his rage and newfound power, Qin Shian returns, not just to confront Wang Yi, but to expose the hidden darkness buried deep in his mind.